You don't have a ticket. Someone like you could never understand music. Thanks to my father-in-law and mother-in-law, I found myself at a classical concert venue, but my ticket had mysteriously disappeared. How dare someone like you try to mingle with us? Go home. I was clearly being discriminated against, but the person who stepped up to help me was my mother-in-law. Little did my sister-in-law know she was about to face her own downfall. My name is Betty. I fell in love with music at a young age. Being surrounded by the music I loved was always a joy, but due to my shy and reserved personality, I never really played with others. I just played alone with toy instruments. We weren't a wealthy family, so taking music lessons was out of the question. In elementary school, I eagerly joined the wind ensemble and continued through high school. However, whenever we had to play as a group, I was always the one holding everyone back. This experience left me with a deep-seated trauma, making me uncomfortable in group settings, even beyond music. I found solace in playing an instrument alone, often retreating to a corner of the music room. My music teacher noticed this and introduced me to a well-known musician who recognized my rare talent. Unfortunately, my parents never understood or supported my passion, as we weren't well off. I often thought that with proper training, I might feel comfortable playing in a group. However, due to our financial situation, that was never an option. Eventually, I gave up on pursuing music professionally and settled for enjoying it as a hobby. When I received my first paycheck as an adult, I went to my first ever classical concert. I was a big fan of a particular family of musicians whom I deeply admired. The tickets were expensive, even for the worst seats, but I decided to go for it, thinking it might be my only chance. I had no regrets. The experience was worth far more than the price of the ticket, and I left feeling deeply satisfied. I'd love to go again if the opportunity arises, but I can't afford to buy expensive tickets regularly. I contribute a portion of my salary to my family and need to save for my wedding as well. Regarding marriage, I'm just waiting to meet someone who feels right. After working for 3 years, my parents have started hinting that I should think about my future. In the past, people usually married in their late 20s to early 30s. My mom married my dad around that time too. Nowadays, personal choice is highly valued. My parents understand this and don't nag much, but their lack of pressure makes me feel like I need to hurry up and get married. Even after getting a job, I'm still shy and introverted. I've been invited to group dates by female coworkers but never really talked to anyone. Just considering going on a group date is growth for me, so I decided to start with online conversations through a dating app. I met a guy who loves music and we hit it off online. After exchanging messages for a while, he asked to meet up and I agreed. When we met, I was stunned to realize he was one of the members of a famous musical family I admired. People might wonder why I didn't recognize him from his profile picture, but who would ever think it was actually them? His name was common enough not to raise suspicion. I figured if he knew I was a fan, he might turn me down, so I kept it a secret at first. Eventually, I opened up about my shyness and discomfort in large groups. He said, "I feel the same way." The more we talked, the more we connected, and we decided to get married. When I finally told him I was a fan, he said he was honored and his smile was radiant. Things were progressing smoothly, and we set a date to meet his parents. His family members were usually busy touring, but there happened to be one day when they were all home. Nervously, I entered his house and waited for his parents. His sister-in-law entertained me in the meantime. She said, "As you might know, we're a musical family. If you can't play at least the violin, you're not really part of the family, you know." I was in trouble. I had never touched a violin in my life, let alone played one. The school band club didn't have room for violins. Just then, his parents stepped in and said, if she has musical skills, any instrument will do. But his sister-in-law insisted on the violin. Then he said, "Mom, don't we have a practice violin? Can we borrow it?" And added, "Please give Betty and me some time for a quick lesson." His mother agreed. "Why not? It'll be interesting to see what you can do in about an hour with a string instrument, especially a violin." I wasn't confident I could make a sound in just an hour. "But trust me, Betty, you'll be fine," he said. I took his word for it and asked my mother-in-law if she'd lend me her violin. He had a practice room, and we spent an hour there. It was my first time with a violin one-on-one. Honestly, I was terrible, but "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" is a song I know well, so imagining it was easy. I focused on putting emotion into my playing since my technique was non-existent. "You're doing great, Betty," my mother-in-law said. Just making the sound on the violin is hard. You've come a long way, especially considering it's your first time. You're giving the music the respect it deserves." He also said, "You move me," and gave me a big round of applause. The only one who seemed unimpressed was my sister-in-law. She probably thought I would embarrass myself and never expected me to win over her mom. As a result, I was welcomed into this musical family and officially became a married woman. My relationship with my father-in-law and mother-in-law is good, but a troubling dynamic with my sister-in-law is emerging. She frequently picks on me, makes snide remarks, and harasses me. She's very pushy and always retaliates if I try to stand up for myself, which I struggle to do, making her even more irritated. The harassment has only intensified. When the family was on tour, there were days when my sister-in-law wasn't performing due to the tour's schedule. On those days, it was just my sister-in-law and me at home. Although we had a housekeeper, my sister-in-law insisted that I cook. After tasting my meals, she criticized them as awful and poorly made. Even when she asked me to remake a dish, she would throw it away in front of me, claiming she didn't want to eat it anymore. She would even spill soup intentionally. Additionally, she would step on my back or put her foot on my head. During family dinners, she would often call me to the bathroom for no reason. "When will you learn proper table manners?" she demanded. "I don't want to share a table with someone like you." Although my husband, father-in-law, and mother-in-law believe I'm improving, she keeps saying, "I can't believe you can't even manage that." I don't think I'm as ill-mannered as she claims. Nevertheless, the sadness and frustration from not being acknowledged make me feel disheartened. After she leaves, I retreat to a quiet corner and wipe away my tears. My husband soon finds me and asks, "I was worried when you didn't come back." "Wait, why are you crying? Is she giving you a hard time? Don't hold back. Tell me everything." "What a sweet man," I almost said, but then I heard the joyful laughter from the family gathering and didn't want to disrupt the mood just for my own issues. If I could be patient, maybe it would help maintain the peace. "No, it's not like that. I get along with her," I said, "but you were crying." "I was just so happy to be married and accepted by everyone. I couldn't help but cry," I explained. My husband paused for a moment, then nodded in agreement. "Yeah, you're right." He took my hand and said, "Let's continue with dinner," leading me back to the table. It seemed like we might finally get some downtime from my father-in-law and mother-in-law. They even suggested attending a classical music concert as part of my welcome. Listening to various performers and interpretations from different conductors could be enlightening. They asked which concert I'd like to attend, and I recommended one they had previously enjoyed. They discovered they might be able to get tickets through a connection. However, my sister-in-law insisted on handling the tickets herself, claiming she had some influence with the people involved. On the day of the event, we arrived at the venue, and my sister-in-law went to the staff entrance. After a brief conversation with the staff, she returned with what looked like tickets. She distributed the tickets to everyone, but I didn't receive one. People who are broke wouldn't understand music anyway, right? Excuse me, but you and I are on different levels. Know your place. Now go home. You don't belong here. My husband offered to check if there were any spare tickets available. However, not wanting to escalate the situation or make things uncomfortable for everyone, I decided it was best to leave and began to pull my husband away. "Wait, Betty, you're not the one who needs to leave. It's her who's always mistreating you," said my mother-in-law, who had been quiet until now. "Why me? Listening to music has nothing to do with being rich or poor. People have their own ways of enjoying it. It's not for others to interfere." My mother-in-law scolded my sister-in-law, who had always been cold toward me. "You think I don't know? It's clear something's been going on behind my back." "That's not true." "Really? I find your envious attitude far more impoverished," my mother-in-law retorted. My brother-in-law chimed in, "Aren't you always sleeping through concerts? It might seem like you're oblivious, but it's glaringly obvious," he chuckled. Sure, sister-in-law graduated from a music conservatory and won some awards, but she became complacent and stopped improving. You have to practice your instrument every day, or your skills will deteriorate. If you're going to lecture others on music, maybe you should first focus on improving yourself, my brother-in-law said. My brother-in-law regretted not being able to address his wife's lack of skill and attitude as a musician directly, but he couldn't bear the idea of causing harm to his brother's wife. "You have neither the awareness nor the ambition as a musician. I think it's time for you to leave our family. I'm tired of supporting someone with no promise of growth." It was an opportune moment for my sister-in-law to lash out. "You're one to talk, old lady. Your sense of music is so outdated that I can't even stand it. It sounds like something for the poor, so of course, I'd be thrilled to leave this awful musical family." Her words grew even stronger. She proclaimed she would go solo, make her own fortune, and prove everyone wrong. I thought people like her were incapable of self-reflection, but I didn't expect such intense rage. In the end, she stormed off, throwing a concert ticket to the ground as she left. My mother-in-law picked up the ticket and handed it to me. "Let's go," she said, taking my hand as we walked together. My second experience at a classical concert was deeply moving. Different musicians and conductors brought unique vibes and interpretations to the same piece, making me wonder how the same composition could sound so varied. I discovered new interpretations and learned a great deal. My mother-in-law seemed to notice my enthusiasm. Meanwhile, the tension between my brother-in-law and sister-in-law reached a breaking point, and their attempts at reconciliation failed, leading to their eventual divorce. My former sister-in-law hastily organized her solo concert, disregarding advice. Overconfident, she rented a venue with a capacity of 5,000 people, a size rarely filled even by popular classical concerts. Unsurprisingly, ticket sales were poor, and she ended up buying many herself to make the hall appear less empty. Unsold merchandise left her with a warehouse full of stock. Her second solo concert fared no better, attracting only a handful of attendees. Lacking both talent and a likable personality, she faced widespread online criticism. Unable to pay her staff or cover other expenses, she quickly fell into debt. Her street performances were met with harsh comments like, "You're terrible, stop annoying us," and even resulted in water being thrown at her. My mother-in-law suggested that I should receive professional music training given my apparent talent. I was both surprised and delighted by the idea, though I felt it might be a bit late to start learning an instrument. However, it seemed like an opportunity I had thought I had missed was presenting itself once again, and I could hardly believe it. I was told I could choose the instrument, and I'm leaning towards the violin, especially since my husband has been helping me with it. My mother-in-law found an outstanding instructor renowned for nurturing many skilled violinists. I even began accompanying the family on their concert tours and assisting behind the scenes. Every day feels blissful as I immerse myself in music and notice my improvement. My current dream is to perform a solo with my husband accompanying me on the piano.
Hello everyone, I'm Laura. I want to share a significant part of my life that involved intense challenges with my in-laws and my husband, especially during our divorce. I hope my story resonates with those of you who have faced unfair criticism from your in-laws. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met Liam, my now estranged husband, on a dating app when I was a 21-year-old college student. Liam was 25, employed, and stable. Despite our age difference, we fell in love. I always believed that love isn't bound by age or looks, so Liam being older never bothered me. However, Liam was troubled by our age gap. He often asked, "Why are you with me, Laura? You could find someone your age who might be a better match." But I chose him because I loved him, and to me, age was just a number. Liam's insecurities ran deep. He would persist, "There must be other reasons, Laura. It's not usual for someone like you to love someone like me. I wish you'd just tell me the real reason." I reassured him repeatedly that my feelings were genuine. I wasn't interested in dating someone my age. I loved him, and that was what mattered to me. Despite my assurances, Liam's self-doubt lingered, hinting at deeper self-esteem issues that seemed to have kept him single before we met. To prove my genuine affection, I made sure not to let Liam spend excessively on me. While I was a college student managing my finances, I wasn't wealthy but made sure to buy him thoughtful gifts and handle my expenses. I always worked part-time jobs to ensure I wasn't financially dependent on him. Liam seemed to appreciate these efforts, but sadly, his insecurities didn't fade, and he continued to question the sincerity of my love, which deeply hurt me. It took 4 years before I fully understood the origins of Liam's issues. When I met Liam's parents, Jesse and Diane, I learned more about his background. Jesse, Liam's father, won the lottery, which changed their lives a lot. This helped me understand why Liam had certain perspectives and insecurities. After winning, Jesse and Diane bought a big house and invested their money wisely. However, their new wealth came with a sense of superiority. During our first meeting, Jesse often bragged, saying, "Not everyone makes it big like me. I was just a hard worker, and look where it got me. Do you realize how rare it is to win the lottery? Yet I managed it on my first try." They were proud of their decision-making skills and often implied that Liam, despite his college education, would never reach their level of financial success. Diane suggested that Liam's previous partners were only after his money and left him once they were financially better off. They openly doubted Liam's ability to make good decisions, which infuriated me. It seemed like Liam's parents saw every woman he dated as a gold digger, and over time, Liam began to believe this narrative. This insinuation that I was just another gold digger became an embarrassing and hurtful part of their story. Fed up with their baseless assumptions, I stood up for both Liam and myself. "I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. Liam has worked hard to establish his career and will achieve even greater success in time." Jesse retorted, "Well, that doesn't change the fact that women only want him for money. The money we have is ours, but Liam does co-own the house. Eventually, it will be his. Every time these girls see our $500,000 house, I swear they just see dollar signs." I couldn't hold back. "I can't speak for Liam's past relationships, but I'm certainly not in this for the money. I love your son, and that's why we're together. I have no interest in your house." Diane then said, "Don't worry, Laura. Sometimes it's hard to accept that people can be successful and live in nice houses. You live in a small rented apartment with roommates. You might start desiring it after spending time around our house, too." Their comments pushed my patience to the limit, and I was on the verge of losing my temper. Liam heard everything but chose not to respond or defend himself. Instead, he steered the conversation in a different direction. His indifferent attitude on our way home took me by surprise after a particularly tense visit with his parents. I decided it was important to talk to Liam directly about the issue. "Liam, your parents are being unfair and hurtful to both of us. Why didn't you stand up for me?" Liam sighed, clearly frustrated. "What did you expect me to say, Laura? My past isn't great. I've been used before by people who only cared about my parents' wealth, making plans for when they'd inherit the house. Even if they were wrong before, that doesn't mean they're wrong about everything." I felt a pang of hurt. Just because those women were after your money doesn't mean I am. It hurt that you stayed silent while your family insulted me. Liam looked conflicted. "You know my family is wealthy now, and maybe they have a point. I'm not saying you have bad intentions, but I can see why it might look questionable to others. You have parents, and that might make you seem more reliant on my inheritance." His words were almost too much to bear. "What you're suggesting is absurd, Liam. I've never pressured you to spend on me. Not having an inheritance does not make me a gold digger." Liam remained stubborn, unwilling to see my perspective. "I love you, and that's what matters. Let's not argue about this anymore," he said, dismissing the need for further discussion. While some might have taken comfort in his declaration of love, I couldn't shake the feeling that he still had doubts about my intentions. I tried repeatedly to discuss it, even suggesting therapy to help him see things more clearly, but he refused, insisting there was nothing wrong. As time went on, I began distancing myself from his family. We got engaged right after I graduated from college, and I landed a decent job, which allowed me to start saving for our wedding. We shared the wedding expenses equally and married when I was 25. However, the next 5 years of our marriage were rocky. Liam frequently visited his parents, each time returning more distant and upset. I knew Jesse and Diane continued to poison his mind, still branding me as a gold digger. Despite my pleas for him to reduce contact with them, Liam continued to see his parents often. Their negative influence began to deeply affect his view of our relationship, convincing him that no one could truly love him for who he was. Even after years of my unwavering love, Liam's suspicion towards me never seemed to ease, and the weight of constantly having to prove my sincerity grew increasingly exhausting. However, the moment that truly tested us came on Liam's birthday. Preferring a low-key celebration, we decided to have a small cake party at our home. I was excited to make his day special. I surprised Liam with the expensive watch he had admired for a long time. He was thrilled with the gift, but my heart sank when he suggested we show it off to his parents. Despite my hesitation, I went along with him. When we arrived, Liam couldn't wait to show his new watch to his parents. "Mom, Dad, look at this beautiful watch Laura got me. I've wanted it for so long. Isn't it stunning?" His enthusiasm was clear. Diane responded with a slight surprise. "Oh, Liam, it seems she does love you after all." We were quite worried for some time. But Jessie quickly added, "Don't be fooled, Diane. She's a gold digger. She married our son because we have a $500,000 house. Let's not ignore the facts." I couldn't contain my frustration. "Excuse me, why do you think I married your son for your house? I've been working and living in an apartment for years. Besides, if age was a concern, why would I marry someone older unless I truly loved him? I assure you, I didn't marry Liam for his money or your house. I married him because I love him. Surely Liam can confirm that, right?" To my astonishment, Liam remained silent. His reluctance to defend me in front of his accusing parents was deeply unsettling. I felt increasingly isolated as he avoided making eye contact, sinking under their harsh assumptions. Pushed to my limit, I confronted him. "Liam, why aren't you saying anything? Your parents have always labeled me a gold digger. How will they ever see the real me if you don't speak up? Why are you so quiet? Tell them they're wrong." Liam's hesitation was palpable. He muttered, I don't know what you want me to say, Laura. Maybe my parents aren't completely wrong. There might be a possibility that..." His words trailed off, but the implication was clear. This doubt, this inability to stand by me, was more than just a simple misunderstanding. It was a fundamental crack in the foundation of our relationship, casting a shadow over our love and my place in his life. Liam's birthday celebration quickly turned sour. I was astounded by the accusations flying my way. "Are you serious right now, Liam? You believe I married you for your assets?" His parents chimed in, their suspicion clear. "Oddly, you've never thought about buying a house, have you? For someone renting, owning a home should be a top priority. You haven't even talked about it with him. Our place is out of your price range. You could never afford something like this on your own, so marrying Liam and settling here seems more logical." Liam looked at me with a mix of doubt and confusion. "Yeah, Laura, why would you marry me? You might have feelings for me, but I think there's more to it than just love." I was left speechless by their words. All the love and affection I had felt for Liam seemed to disappear instantly. Both my in-laws and my husband saw me as nothing more than a gold digger. While the skepticism from his parents was hurtful, Liam's agreement cut the deepest. At that moment, I decided to end our marriage. I didn't reveal my decision right away. Instead, I waited for the right moment. Once Liam and I were back home, I contacted a lawyer and began the divorce process. The lawyer assured me that everything would be ready within a week. Meanwhile, I moved into a separate room to give myself some space. Liam thought I was just cooling off and had no idea of my intentions. When the divorce papers were ready, I gathered my belongings and left. Liam, clearly distressed, called me in a panic. I told him to meet me at a specific address and to bring his parents. Despite his confusion, he complied. As they arrived, I stood waiting on the porch of a stunning house. Their expressions shifted to surprise as they took in the scene. "You must be wondering why I brought you here," I said, gesturing to the luxurious surroundings. "It's a beautiful house, isn't it? No one can compare their home to this one. It's worth around $5 million in today's market. Quite expensive, right?" The dramatic setting was my way of showing them that their accusations and suspicions were unfounded. I was not the person they thought I was, and I needed to make that clear in the most unforgettable way. "But it's worth every penny," I said, gesturing toward the lavish interior of the house, which also boasted furniture worth millions. "What is this place, Laura? I don't understand why you have access to such a house," Liam asked, puzzled. "Why don't you all come in so we can talk properly? I can't explain everything standing here on the porch," I suggested, brushing off their astonishment as I led them inside. They followed, their eyes widening in awe at the opulent decor. As we settled into the plush sofas, I took a deep breath, ready to address the elephant in the room. "I've made a decision, and that's why we're here. I filed for divorce," I stated, handing over the papers. "We can proceed with an uncontested divorce if you agree." "What? I don't understand. Why are you filing for divorce?" Liam's voice was a mix of confusion and concern. "It's simple," I replied. I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "You and your parents think I'm a gold digger. You believe I married you for your house and money. Despite everything I've said, you've refused to listen. So it's better for everyone if I leave, sparing you from what you deem my gold-digging tendencies. You're considering divorce just because my parents spoke what they believed to be the truth." "That's ridiculous," Liam retorted, disbelief coloring his tone. "I think it's for the best," I replied, firm in my resolve. His mother, watching the exchange with an unreadable expression, chimed in. "If she's so adamant, you should just sign the papers, Liam. Then at least you can find someone who truly loves you." "Why did you bring us to this house, Laura? Do you expect me to buy this for you as part of our divorce settlement?" Liam asked, suspicion in his voice. "Why would I need you to buy this house, Liam? This house is already mine," I answered calmly, watching their shock and disbelief unfold. They looked at me as if I were joking. "How on earth can you afford a house like this? Your renting and your job isn't enough to cover something like this." "Stop lying to us," Liam's father demanded, his tone sharp with suspicion. Their disbelief was palpable, but I was ready to prove my independence and financial capability once and for all. "I'm not lying," I asserted firmly. "Liam, remember when I mentioned that my parents left me some inheritance? Well, this house is part of it. It's under a trust for now, but I will officially inherit it when I turn 32. I don't need to work a high-paying job because I have a trust fund waiting for me." "That's impossible," Liam interjected. "Your parents passed away a long time ago. They should have given you the house earlier." "My parents were aware of the potential leeches I might attract," I explained. "So they instructed me never to disclose the house or the trust fund to anyone. They wanted to keep everything safe until I turned 32. By then, they hoped I would be settled with someone who genuinely cared about me, not my inheritance." "Oh my God, Laura, you should have told us about your wealth. We had no idea. This is a sizable house you have. We could all live very comfortably here," Liam's mother exclaimed. "Yeah, you should have shared that sooner. We thought you were after our house. We could have avoided all the misunderstandings," Liam added, looking relieved yet somewhat embarrassed. I always knew Laura was perfect for Liam. I've been saying she's a great woman. Look how wealthy she is. Liam found a great match, his father chimed in, his tone shifting dramatically. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Their attitude toward me had changed so quickly it made my head spin. What was even more bizarre was that they seemed to forget about the divorce papers I had brought. Pulling out the papers, I signed them. As I was saying, "Here's my signature for an uncontested divorce. You can just sign these to make it easy. If you want to fight, we can take this to court, but I won't live with you anymore." "Wait, Laura, listen to me. There's no need to rush this," Liam pleaded. "You've already proven you're not a gold digger. There's no reason to get a divorce anymore. We even apologize for any misunderstanding. That should make things better, right?" "Yes, Jesse is right. We're sorry, Laura. We doubted you for no reason," his mother added, her voice filled with regret. Despite their apologies and sudden change of heart, the memory of their judgments and accusations lingered in my mind. I couldn't stay in a relationship where trust had to be proven rather than given. I don't want your insincere apologies, I said firmly, my resolve unwavering. For 4 years, you allowed your family to berate me and call me a gold digger. I expected you to defend me, but instead, you sided with them and even accused me of the same. I can't stay with someone who doesn't respect his wife. I'm done, Liam. We can part ways amicably or involve the courts. The choice is yours. Diane and Jesse tried desperately to change my mind, pleading with me to overlook the past. To them, what had happened was just a minor misunderstanding. However, their lack of genuine remorse for tarnishing my reputation only fueled my anger. When I reached my breaking point, I demanded that they leave before I called the police. My firm stance intimidated them, and they left without further argument. Over the next few weeks, Liam and his parents continued to harass me. They begged, pleaded, and even offered bribes to persuade me to stay. Their belief that money could sway my decision only intensified my fury. It was a stark reminder that they still saw me as someone motivated by financial gain. Ironically, since Liam co-owned the house with his parents, I was entitled to half of his share, which only fueled their desperation for reconciliation despite their relentless attempts. I stayed firm in my decision to leave. I moved all my belongings to my parents' house, asserting my right to stay there even before officially taking ownership. Liam and his parents kept trying to reach out, so I changed my phone number to avoid their constant calls from unknown numbers. Liam even tried to discuss matters at my workplace, but I had informed security beforehand, and they asked him to leave. Liam still hadn't signed the divorce papers, holding out hope that I would change my mind. Nearly a year has passed, and the situation remains unresolved, showing how complex and emotional our lives had become. With less than a year left until the divorce is finalized, I've managed quite well on my own. Living independently, I found both happiness and financial stability. While I've gone on a few dates, I'm not considering anything serious at the moment. According to a cousin of Liam, his family is now worried about having to pay me my rightful share of the house. The legal fees are mounting, and their savings are proving to be insufficient. Liam is even advocating for selling the house, harboring resentment toward his parents for the chaos they've caused in his life. At this point, I simply don't care about their problems. My only goal is to be free from that toxic family and move on with my life, leaving the chaos and negativity behind. My parents welcomed me back with open arms, providing the support and comfort I needed during this difficult time. They were surprised by the turn of events but understood my decision. Moving back home allowed me to reconnect with old friends and focus on rebuilding my life. I found a new job that I enjoy, and my colleagues have become a second family to me. Liam and his parents didn't give up easily. They continued to send letters and emails, pleading for reconciliation. I ignored their attempts, knowing that engaging with them would only prolong the emotional turmoil. It was clear to me that they were more concerned about their financial situation than genuinely apologizing for their behavior. During this time, I focused on self-improvement and personal growth. I enrolled in a few online courses to enhance my skills and took up new hobbies to keep myself busy. I also started therapy to help process my emotions and ensure I was making the best decisions for my future. My therapist helped me see that walking away from a toxic relationship was the right choice, and I began to feel more confident in my decision. As the divorce process dragged on, I made sure to document everything. I kept detailed records of all communications and interactions with Liam and his family. This meticulous approach proved helpful as my lawyer navigated the legal complexities of the case. It also gave me a sense of control over a situation that had felt so overwhelming. Despite their relentless attempts to win me back, I stood my ground. I knew that returning to Liam would mean subjecting myself to more years of distrust and manipulation. I deserved better than that, and I was determined to create a life free from their influence. Liam's cousin kept me updated on their financial struggles. The mounting legal fees and the prospect of losing the house were taking a toll on them. I felt a sense of vindication knowing that they were facing the consequences of their actions. However, I also knew that my happiness didn't depend on their suffering. I was focused on my own journey and the positive changes I was making in my life. Eventually, Liam agreed to sign the divorce papers. The relief I felt was immense. It marked the end of a painful chapter and the beginning of a new one. With the legal process finally moving forward, I could see a clear path to freedom and peace. In the end, I emerged stronger and more resilient. The experience taught me valuable lessons about self-worth and the importance of standing up for myself. I learned that it's better to be alone than in a relationship where I'm not valued or respected. Moving forward, I promised myself to never settle for anything less than I deserved. Leaving Liam and his family was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to reclaim my life and build a future on my own terms. I was no longer defined by their opinions or accusations. I was free to be myself and pursue my dreams without the weight of their judgment. Looking back, I have no regrets. The journey was tough, but it shaped me into a stronger person. I found happiness and fulfillment on my own, proving to myself that I didn't need anyone else's approval to live a meaningful life. My son's fiancé mocked me when we met for the first time. Your dad only finished middle school. Seriously, can you even get a job with such low qualifications? She laughed heartily. Her father joined in. I can't believe he's an unemployed high school dropout. They belittled me, and to make things worse, they served food only for themselves, excluding me. The fiancé's mother said with a big smile, I prepare meals only for my family. I've never seen someone treated so badly during a meeting between two families. I decided to get back at the 5 rude people, including my son, and told them to say whatever they wanted before storming out of the restaurant. My name is Eric Roberts. I just turned 59 this year, and I have a 24-year-old son named Larry. But my relationship with my son is strained, and he never comes to my house. I've often regretted how I raised him, as this led to the situation we're in now. I lost my beloved wife when Larry was still in elementary school. My wife had been frail since childhood, and she passed away at the young age of 47. At my wife's funeral, I didn't care about the judgmental looks from relatives. I sobbed like a little kid. Larry was more composed, telling me, Dad, it's sad, but let's say our goodbyes to Mom. But my grief only lasted during the funeral. Back then, I was running a real estate business I had inherited from my father. The day after my wife's funeral, I woke up to phone calls from clients. That's right, I had loyal clients to take care of, and I had to raise Larry on my own. Those phone calls snapped me out of my grief, and I headed to my office. At the same time, I took part in school events and PTA meetings, filling the role my wife had played all by myself. There's no way my clumsy self could juggle work and school events perfectly on my own. I quickly gave up and decided to temporarily close my business. I handed over my clients to another real estate agency so I could spend time with Larry. But when I went to his school, Larry glared at me and said, Dad, I told you not to come. He even complained, don't tell anyone you're my dad. Without saying whose parent I was or why I was at the school, I would just be some stranger. Even today, I'm wearing a name tag that says Roberts as I participate in PTA activities. I couldn't understand why my son suddenly started giving me the cold shoulder, but it didn't take long for the truth to come out. Hey, isn't that your dad? What's he doing at school on a weekday? Does he have nothing better to do? One classmate said, My mom said that after your mom passed away, your dad became jobless, right? Larry remained silent and looked down as his classmates taunted him. I quickly rushed over and told them, I'm just taking some time off work. It's like your summer or winter break. But this only made things worse for Larry. Your dad's just pretending to be on break. Your family's poor. I'll share my bread from lunch with you, one kid said. Larry grew more and more resentful, and his classmates kept making fun of him. Despite knowing my son was being ridiculed, all I could do was look the other way. I can't remember how many times I cried alone because of how pathetic I felt. Soon, when Larry entered middle school, he started hanging out with delinquents. He would sleep over at friends' houses and hang out at gas station parking lots until late at night. Back in the day, cell phones weren't very common, and it was rare for a middle schooler to have one. Larry started coming home less and less, and I had no clue where he was or what he was doing. All I could do was apologize when I got calls from the school saying there had been a complaint from a nearby gas station. Whenever I went to Larry's school, Larry and his rowdy classmates would call me names like good for nothing and bottom of the barrel while throwing empty cans at me. Larry had become more violent since entering middle school, and I was scared to even talk to him, not knowing what he might do. I wish I had handled things better when he was still in elementary school, but what was the right way for a parent to deal with a child's bad behavior? I had no idea how to communicate with a teenager and was utterly confused. He skipped school without caring and even ran away during classes. His grades were rock bottom. At a parent-teacher conference, they told me about a private high school where even Larry could get in, and I was relieved. I was glad there was a high school he could go to. I thought maybe he'd calm down a bit after going to high school. Just as I hoped, after starting high school, Larry began to take his classes seriously. He studied hard, started scoring a bit above average on tests, and even made it to college. But his disdain for me remained the same. Even after going to high school, he continued to bounce from one friend's house to another, never stopping by home. After getting into college, he started living alone in a dorm and paid his tuition by working part-time. He was living independently, which was commendable, but he was cold as ice towards me. Even after he started working, he never once came home. Then, out of the blue, when Larry was about 24, he called me. He said, "I've got someone I want to marry." Then he goes, "Next Sunday at 3 p.m., we're meeting up at a fancy restaurant, so be there," and lets me know the plans he made without even asking about my availability. I was like, hold on, this is too sudden. But when I got mad, he just said, "If you can't make it, don't bother," and hung up the phone with his cold attitude. I had mixed feelings, but he's my only son, so for his sake, I went to the fancy restaurant at the time he told me to. When I got to the restaurant, her folks were already there, and they were like, "Who are you?" All rude. I was like, "You call me out of the blue, and then ask who I am? Come on." But even though I was fuming, her folks just said, "No, we didn't call you," and they were just as cold as my son. Now my son Larry was standing there smirking. This guy was up to something. Still not sure I trusted what was happening, I headed inside the restaurant. There was no talk about Larry or his partner Kelly. Instead, I was the center of their attention, and they treated me like an intruder. Then Larry started saying, "This guy here dropped out of high school and worked, but after Mom passed, he's just been loafing around, telling Kelly and her folks." I was like, "Hey, this isn't the time or place," but he didn't care. Then, to top it all off, Kelly burst out laughing, saying, "For real? Can a person even get hired with just a middle school education?" Kelly's dad added, "Wow, raised by a high school dropout and layabout, but you're here with a college degree and a job at a big company. You took your old man as what not to be, huh?" Praising Larry. I was too tired to argue and was about to say what you want, I'm out of here, but then a waiter came in from behind me with the food. "Sorry for the wait," he said. "Oh right, the food hadn't even come yet." I was so upset I forgot. I tried to calm down, thought I'd just eat what was in front of me and leave, but the food that got brought out was only for Larry, Kelly, and Kelly's parents. The waiter said, "I'm sorry, We had a reservation for 5, giving me this look. Kelly's mom said, "Yes, that's correct. He's not our family, so don't mind him," giving the waiter a sweet smile. The waiter looked all kinds of uncomfortable and backed out. Just as I was about to lose it, Kelly's dad cut me off. He said, "We don't want anything to do with some deadbeat high school dropout. Our family and relatives are all bank employees, doctors working at major companies. You don't belong here. Please leave." That was enough. I said, "Is education and job history all you care about? Aren't you folks a bit off your rockers?" and got up to leave. To that, Kelly's dad said, "I work at Bank of New York Mellon, where education and job history really matter for clients' trust." "But of course, a layabout like you wouldn't know." I said, "Oh my, you work at Bank of New York Mellon, huh? That's quite impressive," and walked out. I said that as I was leaving, but they didn't hear me. The next day, I paid a visit to Bank of New York Mellon, where Kelly's dad works. Being called a deadbeat by my son, his classmates, and my son's fiancée and her family, I must admit, I'm not actually a deadbeat. After my wife passed away, I temporarily closed my real estate business. Let me clarify, it was just a temporary closure. I didn't shut it down for good. After my wife's passing, I switched my business to online management so I could prioritize my son's school events and PTA meetings. When I had a physical store, most of my clients were neighbors, but after switching to online management, I could serve customers from all over the country, like people living in small towns about an hour's drive from the nearest train station, and even Americans living abroad. I started getting more consultations about renting and buying properties from these folks. Thanks to the internet, I could expand my property portfolio and cater to a broader clientele. Running a real estate business online made things possible that seemed like a dream. Additionally, I was quite active in stocks and investments as a hobby. Currently, I have $70 million deposited in Bank of New York Mellon, where Kelly's dad works. Upon arriving at the bank, I promptly requested to speak with the branch manager and informed him about everything that happened the day before. I said, "I was told by one of your employees that this bank operates on trust, built on educational background and work history. So I've lost all trust in this bank because of that statement. Could you please proceed with the account closure?" The branch manager kept apologizing profusely and finally explained the account closure process with a face on the verge of tears. "Oh, I almost forgot about something important. There's this troublemaker who has not paid the rent for the apartment I own for 3 years. I had been letting it slide, thinking he's my son, but no more. I mailed my son a notice demanding 3 years' worth of rent. 5 days later, Kelly's dad and my bonehead son came storming into my house. "Why did you rat me out?" to the branch manager. "That was underhanded, Dad. What's the deal with that notice? If you're the manager, cover for me." I sighed and said, "I lost trust in the bank after learning about your practice of judging clients based on education and work history. Are you panicking just because of what one person said? Do you have something to hide? And Larry, just because we're family doesn't mean you can skip paying rent. Pay your own rent." Kelly's dad shouted, "Because you went around stirring the pot, I got a bunch of complaints from my other clients. My boss chewed me out because of what you did. The nerve." "Oh no, I didn't stir the pot. I just shared this story as casual conversation with my relatives and clients. I didn't tell them to close their accounts," I said with a smile. My son snapped at me, "What clients, Dad? You're just a deadbeat, aren't you? Do you think a deadbeat could afford to build a huge house like this in such a prime location and still maintain this lifestyle?" "I even did some renovations recently," I replied. My son looked baffled and said, "Huh? What's that? Did you go into debt or something? I'm really fed up with you." I took a break from my real estate job for a while and then switched to running an online business, which I'm still doing. "How many times do I have to tell you I'm not a bum?" I said. My son turned pale and said, "What? I had no clue. I thought you were just working part-time." Kelly's dad started yelling, "You're a real piece of work, keeping your occupation secret even from your own son." Annoyed, I said, "Say whatever you want," and closed the front door. Outside, I heard them shouting, "You've ruined my reputation. I'm gonna sue you. I can't believe I've been duped by my old man for this long. I'm not gonna let him do this to me." They were making a ruckus, but after about 5 minutes of shouting, they seemed to get exhausted and it got quiet. Once they realized that shouting was meaningless, I figured they wouldn't bother coming around here again. I let out a sigh of relief and went to make myself a cup of coffee. Just then, I heard my son's voice outside again. "You big fat liar. What are you still doing here?" I said as I looked out the window to see Kelly's dad and my son spray painting my front door. "You've got to be kidding me. What are they up to now?" Just as I was about to go outside and give them a piece of my mind, I heard a police siren getting closer. Could it be that someone in the neighborhood called the cops? My hunch was right. When I went outside, the 3 of them were being detained by the police, who had shown up because of a neighbor's complaint. "There he is, that big fat liar. I lost all my credibility at work because of him," they shouted. The police calmly loaded them into the patrol car, saying, all right, we'll take it from here." Then one of the officers, who seemed to have just noticed me, approached with a strangely cheerful expression. "Sir, would you please come with us to give your statement?" Why me? I thought, but I guess I'm the victim here. I'm gonna spill the beans on all their shenanigans. When we got to the police station, I showed the cops a video from my phone. It was footage from the security camera I installed at my front door. The camera had recorded all the yelling and antics. "What a great piece of evidence," the officer exclaimed with a sparkle in his eye, and my questioning was over in a jiffy. My son and Kelly's dad were given a stern warning by the police and had to sign a restraining order to keep their distance from me. It turns out the whole neighborhood had witnessed their crazy behavior. One of my son's coworkers, who lives nearby, had been blabbering about it at the office. "Hey, you won't believe it, but Larry was caught spray painting his own father's house and got hauled off by the cops." I was so shocked I recorded the whole thing. My son became the talk of the town at his workplace and with clients, and his boss ended up demoting him. I went to report the incident to Bank of New York Mellon again, where Kelly's dad worked. When I showed the manager the security camera footage on my phone, his face turned white as a sheet. I heard that Kelly's dad finally got fired, and naturally, she called off the engagement with Larry. Larry and Kelly's family both fled far away to a rural area. Apparently, Kelly's parents even came to work part-time at the gas station in the sticks run by my brother. They were no good and couldn't get the hang of stocking shelves, no matter how many times they tried. I showed them and had to give them the boot right away. Word spread quickly, and nearby gas stations and farmers did the same. According to my brother, Kelly's parents can't seem to land a steady job and are bouncing from one gig to another at gas stations and farms. Furthermore, I heard that Kelly showered her boyfriends, including my son, with expensive gifts like watches, and she got into debt because of that. The little money her parents make from their part-time jobs apparently goes straight into paying off Kelly's debts. It's a mystery how they're making ends meet. It's been 6 years since then, and my son is now 30. It seems like he's changed for the better after being treated with kindness from folks in the small town he moved to. He came to me a couple of times and apologized sincerely. He said, "I was naive and immature. I didn't even try to understand your job and just labeled you as a good-for-nothing. I can't apologize enough for how much I regret it." Seeing the change in my son's attitude, I decided to let him move in with me. Now he's working at a company near my place, and little by little, he's helping me out with my work too. But don't get me wrong, he's still inexperienced, and I don't trust him completely. I'm hesitant to hand over all my work to him, but I'm going to observe his behavior and attitude towards work and make decisions accordingly. If he proves he's really turned his life around, I might consider handing over the reins of my business. But if I told him that, he might get too excited and say, "For real?" I'll hand in my 1 week's notice tomorrow and do something impulsive. I'm living with my son, holding on to the hope that one day I'll feel confident enough to trust him with everything. After the incident with the police, the news about Larry and Kelly's dad spread quickly. The neighborhood couldn't stop talking about it. One of Larry's coworkers, who lives nearby, blabbered about it at the office, saying, "Hey, you won't believe it, but Larry was caught spray painting his own father's house and got hauled off by the cops." I was so shocked I recorded the whole thing. Because of this, my son became the talk of the town at his workplace, and his boss ended up demoting him. I went to report the incident to Bank of New York Mellon again, where Kelly's dad worked. When I showed the manager the security camera footage on my phone, his face turned white as a sheet. He was speechless. I heard that Kelly's dad finally got fired, and naturally, she called off the engagement with Larry. Larry and Kelly's family both fled far away to a rural area. Apparently, Kelly's parents even came to work part-time at a gas station run by my brother. They were no good and couldn't get the hang of stocking shelves, no matter how many times they tried. My brother said they were a complete disaster, always messing up and causing trouble. Despite all this, my focus remained on my son. It's been a long road, but I believe he's starting to understand the importance of hard work and responsibility. He's apologized for his past behavior and seems genuinely remorseful. I've told him that actions speak louder than words, and I'm watching to see if his actions match his apologies. Living with him again has been challenging, but it's also been a chance for us to rebuild our relationship. I see glimpses of the man he could become, and it gives me hope. I haven't decided yet whether I'll hand over my business to him, but I'm giving him a chance to prove himself. If he shows he can be responsible and trustworthy, then maybe, just maybe, I'll consider it. But for now, I'm taking it 2 days at a time, hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. In the middle of a sunny neighborhood, my small art studio was nestled between 2 tall buildings. My name is Julia, and this studio was my safe haven. I looked around and saw familiar sights: paintbrushes, messy palettes, and canvases at different stages of completion. Here I felt truly alive, getting lost in the world of colors and shapes. My husband Larry walked through the door, his tall frame almost not fitting through the doorway. His dark hair was messy, probably from running his fingers through it all day at work, but his bright blue eyes always had a playful glint. "Hey," he said with a tired smile, dropping his briefcase by the door. "How was your day?" I sighed, glancing at a particular canvas. "It was good, but I'm struggling with this piece. I can't seem to get it right." Larry walked over and took a closer look. "I think it's great," he said, trying to be supportive. "But what do I know? I can barely draw a stick figure." I chuckled. "Thanks for trying to make me feel better." Before we could continue, the sharp ring of the phone interrupted us. I picked it up, already dreading the voice I'd hear. Sure enough, it was Lauren, my mother-in-law. "Hello, Julia," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "How are you?" "I'm fine, Lauren. What can I do for you?" I replied, trying to keep the annoyance out of my voice. "I just wanted to see how my son is doing," she said. "Is he there?" Larry gestured for the phone, mouthing, "I'll handle it," before I handed it over. I couldn't resist a little jab. "He's here and he's great. He always enjoys coming home to a supportive environment." There was a pause on the other end. "Well," she finally responded, "just make sure he stays that way. Put him on." Larry took the phone from me, giving me a look that said, "Please don't start." "Hi, Mom," he began, and I tuned out the rest of their conversation, turning my attention back to my painting. After hanging up, Larry turned to me. "She's coming over tomorrow." I groaned. Why does she need more reasons to mock my art? Larry put his arm around me. "I'll talk to her, okay? Just try to be civil." The next day, Lauren arrived with her usual grand entrance. Tall with striking gray hair, she carried an air of superiority like a second skin. "Hello, Julia," she said, scanning the room with disdain. "Hello, Lauren," I responded, gritting my teeth. Her eyes settled on my latest work. "What's this?" she asked, pointing at it. "It looks like a child's mess." I clenched my fists, trying to stay calm. "It's a work in progress." Lauren smirked. "Isn't everything here? I don't know why Larry supports this hobby of yours." "It's not a hobby," I retorted. "It's my passion." Larry walked in, sensing the tension. "Ladies, can we please not do this today?" Lauren scoffed. "I just don't see why you waste your time, Julia. My son deserves better." With that, she turned and left the room. I sank into a chair, feeling deflated. Larry sat next to me, squeezing my hand. "Ignore her, okay? Your art is amazing." I looked into his eyes, feeling grateful for his support. "Thanks," I whispered. Life with Lauren was like navigating a field of landmines. Every interaction was a potential explosion, and most days I felt emotionally drained by her constant jabs. Her favorite topic, of course, was my art. She never missed a chance to belittle it or ridicule me. One Sunday afternoon, Larry and I were in our living room. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow across the room. I was sketching a new idea while Larry read a book. The peaceful moment was interrupted by a knock at the door. "I'll get it," Larry said, setting his book down. He opened the door to reveal Lauren holding a pie. "I was in the neighborhood," she began, a hint of a smile on her lips. "Thought I'd drop by." "Thanks, Mom," Larry replied, taking the pie from her. "Come on in." I forced a smile. "Hello, Lauren." She scanned the room, her gaze stopping at my sketchbook. "More scribbles, Julia." "It's a concept sketch," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Lauren smirked. "I'll never understand modern art. It all looks so pointless." Larry intervened. "Mom, can you please be respectful?" She shrugged. "I'm just giving my opinion." "I didn't ask for it," I retorted. Lauren leaned in closer, her voice dripping with condescension. "I just worry about Larry. What kind of future will he have with a wife who spends her time drawing whatever this is?" Larry stood up, placing himself between Lauren and me. "Enough, Mom. Julia's work is important. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's worthless." Lauren feigned surprise. "I'm just concerned for my son." I stood up and said, "I'm concerned for my mental well-being. I don't need your negativity." Lauren huffed. "Fine, I'll leave." As she made her way to the door, she stopped and turned. "One day, Larry will see you for who you truly are." I watched as she left, trying to shake off the weight of her words. Larry wrapped his arm around my shoulder. "I'm sorry about her." I sighed. "It's not your fault. I just wish she could see that there's value in what I do." Larry smiled. "She may never see it, but I do, and I'll always be here to support you." The days following Lauren's visit were tense. I found solace in my art, pouring all my emotions onto the canvas. Larry watched me work, always encouraging, always there. One evening, as the sun began to set, painting our room in hues of gold and crimson, my phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number flashed across the screen. Picking it up, I hesitated for a moment. "Hello." The voice on the other end was soft and pleasant. "Is this Julia?" "Yes, speaking." "Hello, Julia. My name is Diane. I'm with the Art Spirit Gallery. We came across your work online and are very impressed." I blinked in surprise. The Art Spirit Gallery was one of the premier spots for modern art in the city. "Really?" was all I could manage. Diane chuckled. "Yes, really. We'd like to meet and discuss a potential exhibition." A wave of emotion washed over me. "I'd love to." "Great," Diane continued. "How about this Sunday at 2 p.m.? That works for me." "Perfect. See you then. And Julia, keep doing what you're doing. Your art is truly special." Hanging up, I turned to Larry, my face beaming. "You won't believe who that was." He looked up, curious. Who? The Art Spirit Gallery. They want to discuss an exhibition for my paintings. Larry's eyes widened in surprise, and he pulled me into a hug. That's amazing. I knew they'd notice your talent. I laughed. I still can't believe it. He pulled back, his face serious. You deserve this, Julia. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The news was like a shot of energy. I spent the next few days preparing, researching the gallery, and planning which pieces to discuss. The day of the meeting arrived, and I dressed carefully, choosing a simple but professional outfit. As I was about to leave, the phone rang again. Hesitating for a moment, I answered, Hello. It was Lauren. Julia, she began, her tone different than usual, almost jealous. I heard about the gallery. I was surprised. Yes, it's true. She scoffed. We'll see how long that lasts. Resisting the urge to snap back, I replied calmly, Thanks for the encouragement, Lauren. She hung up without another word. Larry walked over, hearing the end of the conversation. Don't let her get to you. Today's your day. I nodded, taking a deep breath. You're right. Let's go. Walking into the Art Spirit Gallery, I was amazed by its grandeur. The walls were covered with vibrant paintings, sculptures were strategically placed, and the quiet hum of conversations filled the air. Diane, a tall woman with short curly hair, greeted us with a warm smile. Julia, so good to meet you, she said, extending her hand. I shook it, my nerves still tingling. Thank you for having me. Diane led us through the gallery, pointing out specific spots where she envisioned my paintings. Your work, she began, has this raw energy that we believe our audience will resonate with. I looked at Larry, who gave me an encouraging nod. Thank you, Diane. That means a lot. She smiled. Now, let's discuss the specifics. We were thinking of dedicating an entire section to your work for the upcoming exhibit. That sounds incredible, I replied. Diane handed me a folder. Here's a layout of the gallery and a tentative schedule. We need your pieces here by next month. I flipped through the pages, trying to hide my excitement. This is thorough. All of it started right away. The rest of the meeting was a whirlwind of discussions, from lighting preferences to wall colors. By the end, my head was spinning in the best possible way. As Larry and I walked back to our car, he turned to me, his eyes gleaming. You did it. I laughed. We did it. I couldn't have done this without you. He grinned. Now comes the hard part, selecting and preparing your pieces. Over the next few weeks, our apartment turned into a hive of activity. I was in a zone, finalizing paintings, choosing frames, and coordinating with the gallery. Every surface was covered with art supplies and sketches. One evening, while I was working on a particularly intricate piece, the doorbell rang. Larry went to answer it, and moments later, he returned with a familiar face. Lauren, I said, surprised. She looked around, taking in the chaos. So this is what preparation looks like. I hesitated for a moment, then replied, Yes, it's a lot of work. Lauren's eyes landed on a painting I had just finished. This one's different. I walked over. It's a new direction I'm trying. She studied it for a moment, her expression unreadable. It's interesting. Before I could respond, Larry intervened. Mom, why are you here? Lauren sighed. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I took a deep breath. I'm proud of my work, Lauren. She nodded. It's evident. Well, I should be going. As she left, I felt a mix of emotions. While it wasn't praise, Lauren's visit wasn't as confrontational as our previous encounters. Larry wrapped his arm around me. She's trying in her own way. I smiled weakly. Let's hope. The days flew by, and soon it was time to move the paintings to the gallery. With each piece I packed, I felt a combination of excitement and anxiety. This is it, I whispered to Larry as we loaded the last painting into the van. He squeezed my hand. You're ready, and I can't wait for the world to see your brilliance. The day before the exhibition was a blur of activity. The gallery was bustling with staff setting up lighting, positioning paintings, and ensuring everything was perfect. Larry and I arrived early, watching in awe as my artwork was given prime positioning. Diane approached us, clipboard in hand. "Julia, it's all coming together wonderfully. Your pieces are truly the highlight." I smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thank you, Diane. This means the world to me." She nodded, making a few notes. "The press will be here tomorrow. This is a significant opportunity for you." As the day wore on, I took a moment to sit and absorb the surroundings. The realization hit me that I was about to have my first major art exhibition. This was a dream come true, and I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Larry came over, handing me a coffee. Deep in thought, I looked up, smiling, just taking it all in. "It's a lot." He sat down next to me. "You deserve every bit of this, Julia. I'm so proud of you." I leaned into him, grateful for his unwavering support. "Thank you, Larry." Our moment was interrupted by a call. My phone lit up with an unknown number. Curious, I answered. "Julia." A voice crackled. "Yes, who's this?" There was a pause, then a familiar voice sneered. "It's Lauren." I stiffened. "What do you want?" She chuckled. "Just wanted to wish you luck for tomorrow." Despite her words, there was an unmistakable tone of mockery. "Thanks," I replied curtly, ready to end the call, but Lauren continued. "Actually, there's more. I visited your apartment today." My heart sank. "What did you do, Lauren?" She laughed. "Let's just say I improved a few of your pieces." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You did what?" Lauren's voice dripped with malice. "You'll see soon enough." She hung up before I could say anything else. Panicking, I turned to Larry. "She's been to our apartment. She's done something to my paintings." His face darkened. "Let's go home now." We raced back, anxiety mounting with each passing minute. As we entered our apartment, the devastation was clear. Several of my paintings were destroyed, splashes of paint, torn canvases, and scribbles marred my artwork. I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. How could she? Larry knelt beside me, equally shocked. "We'll get through this, Julia." Amidst the destruction, a realization dawned on me. The best pieces, the ones meant for the exhibition, were already at the gallery. Lauren had ruined some paintings, yes, but not the ones for the exhibition. A plan formed in my mind. Wiping away my tears, I looked up at Larry. "She thinks she's won, but she hasn't. We have an exhibition tomorrow, and it will be a success." He nodded, determination in his eyes. "You're right. Let's focus on that." The day of the exhibition arrived. I was nervous, but the events of the previous day had given me newfound determination. Larry looked at me, offering a comforting smile. "You ready for this?" I took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be." The gallery was soon teeming with visitors. Reporters, art enthusiasts, and curious onlookers walked around, admiring the pieces. The positive murmurs and admiring expressions of the crowd boosted my confidence. Diane approached, her face glowing with excitement. "Julia, this is beyond expectations. The response is phenomenal." I grinned. "Thank you, Diane. It's all thanks to your support." As the day progressed, I was pleasantly surprised to see many familiar faces. "Julia, I'm Jake. I've heard so much about your work, and I must say it's even better in person." I blushed. "Thank you, Jake." He looked around, his gaze settling on a particularly vibrant piece. "This one, I'd like to purchase it." I was taken aback. "Really?" Jake nodded. "Absolutely. And not just this one. I'd like to buy a few more." I was elated, hardly believing my luck. Larry joined us, equally thrilled. "This is incredible, Julia." As we finalized the details with Jake, there was a commotion at the entrance. Lauren had arrived, smugness evident on her face. She walked over, her eyes scanning the gallery. "So this is your big day." I met her gaze evenly. "Yes, Lauren, and it's going better than I could have hoped." She smirked. "I see. Well, enjoy it while it lasts." I was about to reply when Jake interjected. "You must be the infamous Lauren I've heard a lot about." Lauren looked him up and down. And who might you be? Jake extended his hand. Jake Paul. I've just purchased some of Julia's artwork. Lauren's smugness faded, replaced by surprise. You bought these? Jake nodded. Yes, and I must say they're some of the best pieces I've seen in a long time. Lauren was at a loss for words. Realizing that someone of Jake's stature admired my work was a hard pill to swallow. I decided it was time to turn the tables. Lauren, remember those paintings you improved at our apartment? She raised an eyebrow. What about them? I smiled. Jake bought those too. Jake added, and I intend to press charges for the damage to my property. Lauren paled, her confidence shattered. You can't be serious. Jake looked at her sternly. I am. I value art, and what you did was criminal. Lauren looked like she was about to crumble. I didn't know. I stepped forward. Now you do. Maybe you'll think twice before meddling in others' lives. After the whirlwind of Lauren's confrontation, the gallery buzzed even more. I had to take a moment to breathe and center myself. The sheer number of people attending and the success of the sales was mind-boggling. Larry came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. How are you holding up? He asked. I leaned into his embrace. Better than I thought, but God, Larry, the sheer number of people. He chuckled. They're here for you, all for you. Diane settled up next to us with a glass of champagne in hand. You two are the stars tonight, and Julia, the critics are raving. Taking a sip of her drink, she continued, I've had 5 other gallery owners approach me already asking about you. The next big thing, they said. I blinked in surprise, struggling to process the information. Really? She nodded, her eyes twinkling. Really? Prepare yourself for a lot more attention after tonight. A familiar voice called out, There's the artist of the evening. I turned to see my old college friend Rachel striding over with a big smile on her face. Pulling me into a hug, she said, I always knew you'd make it big, Jessica. I laughed. It's still Julia to you, but thank you, Rachel. It's been too long. As the night wore on, I chatted with countless visitors, some who knew about art, some who didn't, and some who just came to show their support. Each interaction was a reminder of the journey I had taken to get here. Around midnight, the crowd began to thin. The gallery's lights dimmed slightly, casting a warm ambient glow over the remaining guests. That's when I noticed a familiar face standing by one of my paintings, studying it intently. Uncle Donald. I approached hesitantly. We hadn't spoken in years. He turned to me, his eyes slightly moist. Hello, Julia. It's been a while. Not knowing what to say, I simply replied, Yes, it has. He looked back at the painting, a piece I had done of our old family home. This takes me back, he murmured. We talked for a long time, reminiscing about old times and catching up on new ones. The rift that had formed in our family after a dispute over inheritance had kept us apart, but that night in front of my artwork, barriers were broken. By the time the gallery closed, my feet were sore and my voice was hoarse, but the joy in my heart was unmatched. Larry, ever the caring husband, carried some of my stuff as we headed out. As we drove home, he glanced over at me. You did it, Julia. You proved them all wrong. I leaned my head against the window, the city lights streaming past. It's just the beginning, Larry. Just the beginning. The sun filtered through the curtains as I sipped my morning coffee. Last night's exhibition success still buzzed in my mind, and the feeling of satisfaction lingered. Larry was reading the morning paper when the phone rang. Picking up, I was met with a familiar shaky voice. Julia, it's Lauren. My guard went up immediately. What do you want? To apologize, she began, desperation evident in her voice. I've seen the error of my ways, especially after the success of your exhibition. Why now, after everything? I asked, my voice icy. The buyer of the paintings has filed a lawsuit. It's substantial. I was hoping maybe you could talk to him, persuade him to drop the charges. She was almost pleading. I took a deep breath. You expect me to bail you out after everything you've done? I'm genuinely sorry, she insisted. That might be, but actions have consequences, Lauren. I responded coldly. Please, Julia, think about it, she urged before I could respond. I ended the call. Days later, the court's decision came through. Lauren was ordered to pay the full cost of the ruined paintings and a hefty fine for property damage. The verdict didn't surprise me. She had openly admitted to the act. After all, news reached me that Lauren had tried to appeal for leniency, but it was no use. The damage was done, and the court stood firm on its decision. Soon after, Lauren stopped all communication with me. In many ways, the silence was a relief. Her constant negativity and interference had been a burden for too long. With her out of the picture, my life slowly regained its balance. My career began to flourish in ways I had only dreamed of. The exhibition's success opened new doors for me, and I was invited to showcase my work in other prestigious galleries. The recognition and support from the art community were overwhelming and deeply satisfying. Larry and I continued to strengthen our bond during this time. He was my rock, always there to encourage me and help me navigate the new opportunities and challenges that came with my growing career. We spent more time together, appreciating the peace that had returned to our lives. The ordeal with Lauren was a harsh reminder that life is filled with challenges, but also that every cloud has a silver lining. Her actions, while hurtful and destructive, ultimately led to a series of events that strengthened my resolve and boosted my career. It was a testament to the idea that sometimes justice does prevail, and good can come from even the most difficult situations. As time passed, I found myself reflecting on the lessons learned from this experience. I became more resilient and more determined to protect my work and my peace of mind. I also realized the importance of surrounding myself with supportive and positive people who genuinely believed in me and my passion. In the end, I emerged stronger and more confident in my abilities. The exhibition was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one filled with promise and potential. And as I continued to grow as an artist and as a person, I knew that I could face whatever challenges came my way. With Larry by my side and a renewed sense of purpose in my heart, I couldn't stand the thought of being stuck with a woman who had a huge pregnant belly, making me raise the child alone. His eyes showed disgust, and a big smile appeared on his face, knowing this day would come. Even though I saw it coming, I quickly went to my room and came back with a document. I handed the divorce papers to Paul. His face twisted in shock. "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" he yelled. "Well, it was your idea. Now sign it quickly." "I'll submit it tomorrow," I said firmly. His face turned red with anger as my words hit him hard. "Watch closely. I'll make you regret how you've treated and looked down on me all this time," I declared. "My name is Lisa. I'm a 28-year-old housewife. Until 3 years ago, I worked for a mobile company. I met Paul Walter, my boss, when I was 25. We quickly fell in love and got married. Paul, 4 years older than me, was very reliable, especially when teaching me the job as a newcomer who didn't know much. I was very grateful for Paul's clear instructions. We became friends and often went out to dinner. When he asked me out, I was thrilled, especially since I had never dated anyone before. It's embarrassing to admit, but as a cartoon enthusiast, I was always more interested in 3D characters than real men. However, seeing my high school and college classmates getting married, I started to feel the pressure. When I fell in love with Paul, I secretly promised myself it would be my first and last love. So when we started dating and got married a year later, I was overjoyed. I was extremely happy. Paul was good-looking and popular among our female coworkers. I was proud to be his wife, and many congratulated us, saying things like "Congratulations" or "I'm jealous, but I wish you happiness." I was filled with joy and couldn't imagine what was coming next. "You're quitting your job," Paul said. "You're married to me now, so you'll quit your job, right?" I informed them yesterday. The day after we registered our marriage, Paul surprised me with this news. I've always wanted my wife to focus only on household matters. Don't worry, I can support both of us with my income, he added. But this is so sudden. You never mentioned this before, I replied, shocked. Paul had never talked about me quitting my job before our marriage. I had taken my current job based on my father's recommendation, and leaving without notice wouldn't be right. I wanted to explain this, but Paul's eyes silently warned me not to argue. Instinctively, I kept quiet. I should have told you, but it's done. Starting tomorrow, you don't need to go to work. I'll handle the handover, Paul declared. The news about starting tomorrow was so abrupt it made me feel dizzy. However, Paul's words were firm. Since he had been my boss, I couldn't oppose him. Even though I had to leave my job without a proper goodbye, I was determined to make our marriage work. Paul had entrusted me with household duties, and I wanted to meet his expectations. I worked hard at household chores, preparing meals and focusing on Paul's favorites. Although Paul ate without commenting on the taste, I longed for a word of appreciation. After quitting my job, I was no longer recognized by anyone. One day, Paul asked, "Is my jacket clean? I have an important meeting tomorrow." "Yes, of course," I replied, seeing his domineering side with some old-fashioned views. I reminded myself how lucky I was to have married him and tried to meet his expectations. With no personal income, living normally meant relying on Paul. Our relationship often felt more like that of an employer and housemaid than a husband and wife. Our married life was generally smooth until one day when I fell ill and couldn't get out of bed. I felt very tired and weak. I thought I would catch up on housework the next day. Paul entered the bedroom and angrily asked, "What are you doing? Get up and make some food," as he kicked the blanket off me. "I'm sorry, I'm feeling unwell. Can you manage something for yourself today?" I explained, hoping for understanding. Instead of nodding or comforting me, Paul frowned and said, "You don't work, yet you're lying down just because you feel a bit sick? Pathetic. Get up," and kicked me again. In disbelief, I got up from the bed. I never thought he would demand housework from his sick wife. I had never imagined he would be like this before we married. Maybe it was my fault for not seeing it, but it was too much. I found myself doing chores while tears streamed down my face. Several days passed, and my health showed no signs of improvement. Then I realized I had missed my period. Panicking, I rushed to the drugstore to buy a pregnancy test. When I tried it, the result was positive. Overjoyed, tears flowed naturally, and I decided to share the news with Paul when he returned from work, lifting my spirits instantly. The day Paul came home after midnight was the day I chose to share the news. However, when he entered, the smell of alcohol made me nauseous. His face was flushed, and he staggered as he walked. It was surprising how much he had drunk, especially without notifying me. Even though I had prepared dinner, I wanted to share the news of my pregnancy with Paul quickly. My excited emotions surged, and I told my intoxicated husband, "I haven't been to the doctor yet, so it's not confirmed," I began eagerly. However, Paul's face darkened as he responded, "A child? What have you done?" His tone was harsh and unlike anything I'd ever heard before. "I don't want a child." "Damn, this is the worst. If you're going to have it, raise it yourself," he said. His harsh words shocked me. He rudely stripped off his clothes and headed to the bathroom. It was unbelievable. I couldn't understand why he would make such irresponsible comments about our baby instead of being happy. The happiness I had felt moments ago was immediately replaced with deep sorrow. Why would he say such things? He had never mentioned not wanting children before. We hadn't even been using contraception, so I naturally thought we both wanted children. As I hung Paul's jacket and was about to take his shirt to the washroom, I noticed something else. A piece of paper had emerged from the pocket of his dress shirt. I could tell it was a receipt because of its texture. At first, I thought it was just a receipt from tonight's gathering, and I was about to throw it away. but then I saw the name of the place. Is this a motel? My hand holding the receipt trembled. It was indeed a motel. The shock of this discovery weighed heavily on my heart. Why doesn't Paul love me? Isn't marriage supposed to be between two people who love each other? We've only been married for just over a year. How could this be? I had been lost in imaginary romances for years, never truly engaging in a real relationship. I couldn't accept this harsh reality immediately. However, the idea of Paul cheating began to make sense, and many pieces fell into place. Had Paul been using me from the very beginning of our marriage? Was he genuinely in love with the person he was cheating with while I was just a convenient servant? All these doubts swirled in my mind. Was that why he reacted so harshly when he learned of my pregnancy? As I grappled with these thoughts, nausea set in, and I became convinced something was wrong. Yes, there's no doubt now. Perhaps the reason he made me quit my job was that his mistress worked there. Everything seemed to make sense now, as if he had married me for stability and not love. The line between reality and my imagination became blurry. Still, there was no denying the heartless words he had thrown at me after learning about my pregnancy. That day, I decided to gather evidence of Paul's infidelity. From then on, his cold behavior towards me was undeniable. It was as if he couldn't forgive me for becoming pregnant. Despite knowing that I was suffering from morning sickness, he would deliberately eat smelly foods near me and nitpick my housework, forcing me to redo tasks. My pregnant body had to endure a lot, and my heart was heavy. Despite this, I continued to investigate his affair. Paul never parted from his cell phone, even taking it with him to the bathroom, making it impossible for me to sneak a peek. When I secretly entered Paul's room, it was neat and tidy, with nothing incriminating in sight. He was meticulous at work, and his desk was always in perfect order. I realized it would be challenging to catch him off guard directly. I often checked Paul's pockets for evidence like receipts, but my investigation was difficult. I thought about hiring a detective, but didn't have the money. While I was deep in thought, I received an unexpected phone call from my father. "Hello, it's me, your dad. How are you?" he asked. Surprised by his call, considering his busy schedule, I replied, "Dad, what's going on? Aren't you busy with work?" "My employees have been doing well, so I'm not that busy," he explained. My father, the CEO of a company in France, was always a workaholic. I didn't have many childhood memories of playing with him, but I respected his dedication to his job. His unexpected call left me curious about the purpose. "So, what's happening?" I asked. My father proceeded to reveal a shocking truth. "Is that really true?" I asked in disbelief. "Yes, he's not the type to lie." "I want you to believe me," my father reassured me. Initially in shock and unable to respond, I felt a mix of anger and frustration as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. "Thank you, Dad. I'll do my best," I told him with gratitude before hanging up the phone. My investigation was finally paying off, but the newfound knowledge also stirred up feelings of anger and frustration due to the ongoing tension between Paul and me. Paul continued to be distant even though I was pregnant. Each time he acted this way, I harbored a deep hatred towards him. Months passed, and our relationship remained strained. Eventually, an event occurred that shattered our life. At last month's pregnant, I was always cautious around Paul, living in constant fear. I tried to avoid him, leading a quiet and stifled life. One day, I served dinner as usual. When Paul returned home, we sat at the dining table. As I quietly ate, Paul suddenly slammed his fork down. "What is this? It's tasteless," he exclaimed, throwing the food I had prepared onto the floor. Baffled by his outburst, I tried to comprehend the situation. The anger at having the meal I had cooked discarded before me began to build up inside. "I've been contemplating this for some time, but recently you've been complaining about the taste of the meals," I said. Paul criticized my cooking, saying it was tasteless. Since becoming pregnant, I had been using less seasoning to make healthier meals. This was only temporary until a baby was born. If he found the food bland, he could have added some salt himself. Why did he have to throw the meal on the floor? I was about to complain when Paul sneered and said hurtful words. I don't want a woman with a belly like a monster. You have to raise the kid by yourself, he said, looking at my swollen belly with malice and a nasty smile. I had always feared this day might come, even though I hoped for a different outcome. Swiftly, I went to my room, retrieved a document, and returned to present it to Paul. Fine. Here are the divorce papers, I said, thrusting the prepared documents in front of him. Paul's face twisted in shock. What the hell? What's this all of a sudden? He stammered. Well, it was your idea. Now sign it quickly. I'll submit it tomorrow, I responded. In reality, I had been contemplating divorce since I began suspecting Paul's infidelity. However, with a child on the way, I was unsure if I could support myself. But now I had a different plan in mind. My resolve seemed to provoke Paul. His face turned red with anger. Just watch. I will make you regret every moment you looked down on me and controlled me. Do you think you can survive without me? You have a baby to care for, and you'll regret it, he threatened. My determination was unshaken. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me, I assured Paul. Perhaps irritated by my confidence, he snatched the divorce papers and began to fill in the blanks. Here you go. If this is what you wanted, it's yours, he said. Thank you, I responded. Paul probably didn't think I would actually submit the divorce papers, as he handed them over without a fuss. The following day, I promptly submitted the divorce papers and left the house. I knew he would be surprised when he returned from work to find out. After that, I moved to my parents' home, primarily due to my father's return to the UK from France and his suggestion that I stay with them. It was the right decision at the time. I was fed up with my life with Paul and deeply thankful to my father. On the day I left our home, I received 3 calls from Paul, but I ignored all of them. Eventually, he stopped calling. It became clear that I meant very little to him. He was probably content with his mistress and might even remarry soon. I decided to move on from Paul. 5 months passed, and I had a baby who was born safely. I was now living happily with my parents and my baby. While I was enjoying this peaceful life with my family, Paul called again. I ignored his calls at first, but after several persistent attempts, I had no choice but to answer. Hello, what do you want now? I said, wary of his tone. Hey, what's going on? Why were you on that show? And since when were you the daughter of a CEO with millions of dollars? I never knew that. Paul's voice boomed with surprise and anger. It turned out that Paul had seen a TV show that was broadcasted after I returned to my family home. I had received a request from a TV station thanks to my father's role as the CEO of a renowned global tech company. The show featured the lavish lifestyle of the CEO's family. Producers had come to our house and filmed our family's lifestyle. During the TV show interview, they discussed our family's wealth, mentioning a rough estimate of $25 million. I never imagined Paul would see that show, but the power of television is truly something. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you that I have an asset of $45 million due to an advanced inheritance. That's why I was able to divorce you. Yes, my father informed me about the inheritance, which gave me the confidence to live comfortably even after divorcing you. Upon hearing this, Paul's reaction was immediate, and he was furious. What? That's dirty. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Half of it is mine, right? Give me the money now, he demanded. I calmly responded, just as I suspected. After seeing the show, all you could think of was getting money from me. Gifts from parents are not included in property distribution. Are you forgetting your own mistakes? Paul was puzzled and asked, What are you talking about? I continued, I'm tired of your anger, Paul. You called me yourself. You should know you can't blame me for what you did. You cheated, didn't you? With your new wife, who's a junior from your company? You started dating her even before our marriage. Paul was clearly shocked by the information I got from my father. I finally had the upper hand. Did you think I wouldn't find out? My father has many contacts in your company, and one of them informed me about your affair. I've never mentioned it, but I'll be demanding child support. Paul, still in denial, protested, "Stop kidding. Why should I pay child support? It's all because of you, right? You got pregnant on your own and slacked off with household chores. It's all your fault." Hearing Paul blame me without apologizing for his own mistakes was beyond belief. I couldn't believe I was ever married to someone so lacking in common sense. I truly felt it was the right decision to leave him. "Paul, I'm broke. My wife spent all the money I earned, and now I'm in debt," he pleaded. Hearing Paul's pitiful excuse, I went from anger to sheer disbelief. I never wanted to deal with such an unreasonable person again. With that thought in mind, I firmly gripped my phone. "What are you talking about? Do you even realize how ridiculous you sound? I never want to deal with you ever again. I'll have my lawyer handle the matter of child support. Never call me again, and you will not see the child anymore. Goodbye." "Hey, wait," he called out, but I quickly hung up the phone. Afterwards, I blocked Paul's number and took a deep breath. It's over now, right? I won't get any more calls from Paul. I no longer want him disrupting my peaceful life. Just then, I heard my baby crying from the other room and rushed to soothe the baby. It turned out that he began paying child support every month. According to a former colleague, Paul claimed that the woman he remarried was quite a spendthrift, and he had to cover his current living expenses with debt. It seemed that because of these circumstances, Paul had tried to get a share of my inheritance by calling me. However, Paul didn't get a penny from me. Now, his expenses were greater than his income, and he was struggling. Either he felt things were falling apart, or he couldn't stand being looked down upon by his colleagues. What's more, he made the mistake of starting his job search only after leaving his current company. This resulted in him being forced into a life of poverty. Hearing this from a colleague didn't move me at all. I thought he deserved all the hardships. The harsh words and cold demeanor he showed me will never fade from my memory. I sincerely hope he gets what he deserves. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying being a parent with the help of my parents. My baby is growing up healthy and happy. I feel supported and loved in my family's home, and I no longer have to worry about financial issues. My father, who is a successful CEO, mentioned that he wants to pass on the company to me. This news was both surprising and motivating. I realized that I needed to prepare myself for the responsibilities that would come with running a company. My father has always been a hardworking man, and I wanted to make him proud. So I started learning more about the business, taking on small tasks to understand how things work. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to succeed. Living with my parents has given me a chance to rebuild my life. I feel more confident and ready to face the future. My father's faith in me has inspired me to aim high. He believes in my abilities, and that belief has become a source of strength for me. Every day, I work on balancing my role as a mother and my preparations to take over the company. It's challenging, but I find joy in every moment. My baby's laughter and my parents' support keep me going. I am grateful for this second chance at life, away from the toxic relationship with Paul. I often reflect on my past with Paul. His betrayal and cruelty hurt deeply, but they also taught me valuable lessons about strength and self-worth. I have grown from that experience and emerged stronger. I am now focused on building a bright future for myself and my child. The pain of the past is slowly fading, replaced by the hope and excitement of what lies ahead. I am determined to create a happy and stable life for my child. With my family by my side, I know I can achieve anything I set my mind to. Looking back, I see that leaving Paul was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to find myself again and to discover my true potential. I am no longer the scared, uncertain person I once was. I am a strong, capable woman ready to take on the world. In the end, I hope Paul realizes the consequences of his actions. As for me, I will continue to move forward, embracing the opportunities that come my way and making the most of every day. I am ready for whatever the future holds, confident in my ability to overcome any challenge. D is retiring, so to celebrate, I'm taking our parents to Germany starting today. I'm borrowing your platinum card for the trip and plan to live it up on your credit card. What a trip this will be. What are you talking about? Just what I said. No, I don't get what you mean by just what I said. Please explain. We need to hurry. I get it. We'll go soon. Sorry, I have to move on now. I'll hear the details when I get back. Just one thing, though, the credit card won't work. Huh? My jobless husband Jeremy took my credit card to take our parents-in-law on a trip. I put up with a lot from Jeremy, but this seems like the perfect opportunity to teach him a lesson. When he returns from the trip, he'll have some big regrets. I'm Maria, a 35-year-old company employee. After graduating from a prestigious university, I landed a job at a major company and have received good evaluations. Despite being only 35, my income is enough to support Jeremy, who doesn't work, and a child if we had one, but that's hypothetical. We've been married for 6 years and don't have kids yet, though we're thinking about it soon. Blessed with a good job and income, I should be happy in my newlywed life, but I'm not. The part about having a child is hypothetical, but Jeremy not working isn't. I'm not hungry for dinner because I ate snacks. That's fine, but what about your job search? I didn't go for an interview today. Just stayed home looking at job websites. Jeremy quit his job a year ago and has been job hunting since. To be precise, he's been working part-time but doesn't stick with any job for long. He starts a job, quits soon after, relaxes for a while, then looks for another part-time job. You're looking at part-time jobs again, aren't you? I'm looking at both full-time and part-time. Why don't you stop looking for part-time jobs and focus on finding a full-time position? I know, but there is a right time for everything. I wish Jeremy would find a steady job, but there's a reason he can't be pushed too hard. He quit his last job because of a conflict over work policies with his boss. That boss was notoriously difficult in the office. Jeremy stood up to the boss as the office representative, backed by his colleagues. But when the conflict escalated, his colleagues sided with the boss, not with Jeremy. As a result, Jeremy lost his boss's approval, felt betrayed by his colleagues, and found it hard to stay, so he left the company. Jeremy, dinner's ready? Can you bring it here? After quitting, Jeremy became reclusive, staying in his room. After about 3 weeks, he started coming out and helping with household chores. I'll do the dishes. Really? Thanks. Then it's all yours. Yeah, I've got nothing but time, Jeremy said, smiling, but it didn't seem genuine. Yet after another 3 weeks, he started job hunting. I have an interview today. Is it your top choice? Yeah, I'm going to get this job and start over. I'm rooting for you. Do your best. A month after quitting, Jeremy began job hunting in earnest. But even after a month, he couldn't find a job. Why am I always rejected? Damn it, it's all my previous company's fault. Don't get frustrated. You'll find something good. Of course I'm frustrated. I did nothing wrong. Jeremy might not be entirely blameless, but what happened at his last job wasn't entirely his fault either. Still, quitting because of interpersonal issues doesn't look good to potential employers. It's like I can't do anything right anymore. That's not true. You have an interview tomorrow. Let's work on your resume. It's pointless. I'm not going tomorrow. Repeated rejections wore Jeremy down, but after a while, he became defiant. One day, I came home to find torn-up resumes on the living room floor. Knowing the interview didn't go well, I chose my words carefully. Can you throw that trash in the bin? I'm done. Done with what? Job hunting. We can live on your income, right? I don't need to work. Indeed, we could live on my income alone. Some people don't work and do a great job as full-time homemakers. But that's not Jeremy's situation. He's just avoiding unpleasant realities. I understand his reluctance to work after the bad experience at his last job and the unsuccessful job hunt, but we need to address this issue head on. I decided to be patient with Jeremy for a while. Jeremy, you still haven't found a job. What's your plan? I've worked hard before. This is just an extended break. I'm not just resting. I'm studying for the future. That's good to hear. Living near my in-laws, Jeremy's mother, Linda, and father, Brandon, started visiting us more often after he quit his job. They were probably worried about him. Hearing that Jeremy was preparing for his next job, they seemed relieved, but that was a blatant lie. The beer will run out today. Can you buy some on your way home? It's running out again? You drink too much. Try to cut down a bit. Fine, I won't ask you again. I'll buy it myself. Jeremy wasn't studying or job hunting. He spent his days watching TV and drinking beer. He probably didn't want others to know he was unemployed. If I told my in-laws the truth, it might hurt Jeremy too much, so I decided to stay silent about whatever excuses Jeremy made. But he stopped job hunting for over 5 months, and I finally decided to speak up. Jeremy, maybe it's time to start job hunting. You seem more settled now. What? It's been less than half a year since the incident at my last job. You want me to work again after what happened? I just thought the break was a bit long. Stop nagging. You can't understand my feelings since your job is going well. I have my own struggles, you know. Everyone has work problems and relationship issues. We all try to solve them. Let's work through this together. I get it. I'll look for a job, okay? Jeremy walked out in the middle of the conversation. My words seemed to have hurt him, but him agreeing to job hunt seemed like progress. I decided to apologize when he was feeling better. I got a job because of your nagging. That's great. Where at? At a nearby supermarket. So you'll need to learn and work hard, right? It's just part-time. No need to work too hard. Part-time or not, even part-time is a job. Do you have a problem with that? I wanted to say something to Jeremy, but maybe a little work could be a step toward his recovery. I decided to watch and see. I'm home. Jeremy, you're back. How's the job? I quit the supermarket part-time. Why? It hasn't been that long. A college student there was being bossy, telling me to always put the vegetable boxes at the bottom in storage. It felt like harassment. That student was likely just teaching Jeremy the job. In the workplace, even a college student is a senior. Jeremy kept finding and quitting jobs, unable to stick with any. So Jeremy has been unable to keep a job for long, and it's already been a year. Jeremy, what job are you doing now? I'm working part-time at a pub. I've never worked in food and beverage before, but it's interesting, and I think I finally found my calling. Really? That's great, but isn't the income from a part-time job in a restaurant kind of low? That's fine. I'm currently apprenticing, aiming to go independent. So you plan to own your place someday? Exactly. The income's small now, but I'm working hard for my goal. Then take this. Treat yourself to something nice for once. Jeremy still put on a good show in front of his parents, but as always, it was all lies. He quit the pub job 4 days after this conversation, lying and even taking allowance from his parents. This time, I couldn't help but feel disappointed in my husband, so I decided to be firmer than before. Hey, Jeremy. Later, please. I'm at a good part in the movie. You can pause it. I grabbed the remote control from the table, paused the movie, and forced a conversation. It's just pressing when you pause at the best part. What is it? Jeremy, you're 38, right? You know that's prime working age. Don't you think about the future? Spending all day at home drinking and just watching TV. The future? There are plenty of 38-year-old not working. Many people enjoy life without a job. True, work isn't everything, but those people have something else they're dedicated to. Do you have something like that? Yeah, you're upset about me not working. I'll look for another part-time job. Jeremy seemed intent on only working part-time, considering his reasons for leaving his job and his struggles with job hunting. I had been careful not to hurt him, but it was time for Jeremy to bounce back. I needed to be stricter. One day at work, I got a text from Jeremy. Dad's retiring, so we are going to Germany to celebrate. Starting today. Borrowing your platinum card. Got to splurge on your credit card. I panicked and called him immediately. What do you mean, a trip? Just what I said. I don't get it. Just what I said. Please explain. So many things are wrong here. It's fine to celebrate Brandon's retirement, but he should have consulted me before using my money and borrowing the credit card more like stealing. And why am I paying for a trip to Germany that I'm not going on? Jeremy was probably bragging to his parents, claiming the money was from his savings. My credit card. Thinking about it infuriated me, but one thing Jeremy said caught my attention. You said you borrowed a credit card. The one from our house. Yeah. Why do I have a platinum card? Some people think you need a high income for it, but that's not true. Credit history, stable income, and other factors matter, and it's attainable in your 40s. The annual fee is high, but I use it for the benefits and points. However, that credit card is in my wallet. So you took the credit card from home? Yeah, so I'm counting on you for the payment. Jeremy, elated about his trip to Germany, is speaking to me in a provocative tone. I have been patient with Jeremy for a long time, but this seems like a good opportunity. Jeremy thinks he's clever taking my credit card and being all cheerful, but he's in for a surprise. What are you doing? We need to go. Got it. I'm coming. Sorry, I need to move on now. I'll hear the details when I get back. Just one more thing, the credit card you took won't work. What? That can't be right. It's in Maria's name, and the expiry date is this month. It's short, but it shouldn't be a problem. You're lying, right, Maria? You're lying to stop me from using the card, aren't you? Such a lie is easy to see through. Yes, it expires this month. That's why I have already received a new credit card. What does that mean? So I have 2 credit cards to use for a while now. Sometimes with my credit card, when the new one is activated, the old one stops working. And I've already started using the new card, so the one you took won't work. You're kidding, right? You think it's a lie? If you don't believe me, I can send you the URL to the credit card website, or you could just try using the card. It would be amusing to see you try to pay with a card that doesn't work. This credit card really won't work. Hey, hurry up. I hear his parents calling him from the background of the phone call, but Jeremy, realizing the credit card won't work, seems too flustered to hear them. What should I do? I told them I'd pay for everything except the round-trip travel. Oh, they covered the flight? Yes, Dad felt bad about having all the trip costs covered. What should I do? I'm about to take a cab, and I don't even have money for that. That's not my problem. You said you would pay for everything but the flight. If so, using my credit card in the first place was wrong. Pay with your own money. How can I? I don't have any money. Right, Jeremy. You haven't been working seriously. It's your fault for trying to look good taking your parents on a trip without money. I'm at work, so I have to hang up now. I just wanted to tell you about the credit card. Wait, I hung up and returned to work. Jeremy, unable to pay even for the cab, would have to be honest with his parents. That night after I finished work, I got a call from Laura. I heard from Jeremy. He tried to pay with your credit card and lied about working. Sorry for the trouble. No, don't apologize, Laura. I'm sorry for the inconvenience about the credit card. Are you okay with the money? We'll cover this trip's cost when we get back. I'll make Jeremy apologize and find a job immediately. I'm sorry, Laura, but I'm considering divorcing Jeremy. Divorce because of this? It's part of it, but Jeremy has been taking money from me for a while. What? I stopped giving Jeremy money to curb his drinking. He started a part-time job and bought his own alcohol, but the salary from part-time work shouldn't be enough for daily drinking. Jeremy was taking money from my wallet to buy alcohol. Over a year, he repeatedly stole amounts ranging from $7 to $70. The sum became significant. I had been strict with Jeremy, hoping he would eventually turn things around, but when he stole my credit card for his trip, it wasn't just about $75 anymore. This leap in the amount he took convinced me that he had no intention of improving. I respect your decision. Should I tell Jeremy about the divorce? Could you just tell him I want a divorce? We'll discuss the rest when he returns home. About an hour later, the next morning after my call with Laura, Jeremy called. He must have heard about the divorce from Laura, but I had asked her to wait until he was back to discuss it. Too exhausted, I had decided not to answer his call. The next morning, after returning from work, I found Jeremy at home. He had cut his trip short. "I'll work properly now. Please don't leave me," he pleaded. As I entered the living room and saw Jeremy, he immediately apologized. His regrets seemed sincere, but came too late. He had a whole year to change, yet still asked for another chance. I had warned him repeatedly, yet he squandered every opportunity. I'm not going to give Jeremy another chance because he gave up on me. My mind is made up. Can you leave? Please don't say that. If you don't leave, should I call someone to help you pack your things? I'll move out only if you can afford the rent here. Jeremy fell silent. He didn't even have the money for next month's rent, let alone an income. My words and the reality of the impending divorce made him realize the severity of his situation. With nothing to take, Jeremy seemed to be leaving the house, probably heading to his parents' place. I thought about asking if he had money for transportation, but Jeremy isn't a child. He should manage his own affairs, money or not. I sadly watched Jeremy leave the house. After leaving, Jeremy went to his parents' house. Later, I received a call from Linda. My parents-in-law let Jeremy stay for one night, but then asked him to leave the next day. They thought he might become too reliant on them if he stayed. Creating a situation where he must fend for himself was perhaps their intention. It must have been painful as parents to send their son away, but they made a tough decision for Jeremy's recovery. Kicked out from his parents' home, Jeremy came back to our house, pleading with me. "Please help me. I've got nowhere to go and no money." That's the result of your own actions. You need to handle it yourself. Everyone deals with their hardships. Maybe sometimes it's necessary to ask for help, but all you have done in the past year is abandon your responsibilities and do as you please. I didn't let Jeremy into the house and turned him away from the doorstep. The divorce eventually went through. Jeremy was reluctant, but with the support of his parents, it happened quicker than expected. I have no idea what happened to Jeremy after we split up. He's probably still jumping from one job to another and making excuses for himself. I used to think I'd feel lonely without him, but to my surprise, I didn't feel lonely at all. Instead, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. Living with Jeremy had been incredibly stressful. His attitude and constant need for reassurance kept me on edge. I was always walking on eggshells, afraid of saying something that might upset him. Now, without him around, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Without Jeremy, my life has become much more comfortable. I hadn't realized just how much of a burden our relationship had been. I was constantly trying to support him, both emotionally and financially, and it drained me. Now, I can focus on myself and my own well-being. I'm relieved that I didn't let Jeremy drag me down with him. I was always trying to help him, hoping he would change, but it never happened. Letting go of that responsibility has been freeing. I no longer have to cater to anyone else's needs or deal with anyone else's problems. I can finally live my life on my own terms, without having to accommodate anyone else. It's a fresh start, and I'm embracing it fully. I have more time for myself, more energy to pursue my own interests, and a clearer mind to think about my future. I'm grateful for this new chapter in my life, free from the stress and worry that Jeremy brought into it. Hello, my name is Mary. Since I was a child, my biggest dream was to become a journalist or work in magazine publishing. I loved writing and keeping up with trends, so I decided to study journalism and media in college. After I graduated, I worked with several companies. They weren't very famous, but I was happy because I was living my dream. A few years after graduating, when I was around 31, I met my future husband, Jerry. Jerry came from a wealthy family that ran a successful business. This is important because Jerry's mother, Nicole, never approved of me. She often showed her dislike, thinking I wasn't a good match for her son and criticizing my career in journalism and my education in the field. At first, Nicole's negative attitude and harsh words were very hurtful. It's tough when someone constantly puts you down, but for some reason, Nicole thought it was okay to treat me like that. Thankfully, Jerry always defended me against his mother's cruel remarks. His father, Willie, also supported me, standing up for me whenever he saw Nicole's mean comments. Over time, I became more resilient to Nicole's jibes. Jerry even suggested that we should limit our interactions with her, but I didn't agree. Jerry worked in the family business with his father, and reducing contact with his mother might have made things awkward for Willie, who was genuinely kind. I didn't want to cause any strain in their family or make Jerry cut ties with his family. Through it all, we managed to stay strong. I learned the importance of patience and resilience, knowing that keeping family relationships often means dealing with tough emotions and situations. Handling Nicole became a regular part of my life because we only saw each other a couple of times a month. However, things changed a lot when her husband, Willie, had to travel overseas for work. Nicole didn't want to stay alone, so she moved in with Jerry and me until Willie came back. I had doubts about this arrangement, but believed family should come first. Living with Nicole was hard. She always found something wrong with what I did and constantly criticized me. Even though her comments were relentless, I managed to cope without taking it personally as long as she didn't cause real harm. However, my patience was tested during a particularly stressful week at work. I was leading a major redesign of a section in our magazine, a project that was crucial for both the publication and my career. Success could lead to a promotion. Nicole didn't seem to understand the importance of this project and was indifferent to the pressure I was under. One evening, just before the big presentation, I was discussing my worries with Jerry, and Nicole overheard us. She came into the living room and interrupted with her opinions. As I shared my fears about failing in front of the company's top executives and potentially missing out on a promotion, Nicole bluntly dismissed my concerns. "Well, Mary, I overheard your conversation, and honestly, you probably don't have the skills for this. You'll likely do poorly tomorrow," she said, without being asked. Her words were harsh, and she added insultingly, "Just see it as an opportunity to quit and perhaps focus on being a housewife." Her comment hurt deeply, showing not just a lack of support, but also a strong disregard for my professional dreams. This confrontation highlighted how hard it was to live with Nicole and tested my commitment to keeping peace in the family despite our differences. Nicole's remarks that evening crossed a line when she suggested I'd be a better fit for her son if I gave up my career. "I can't believe he married a journalist," she said scornfully, making it clear she meant to belittle my profession and my efforts. Feeling frustrated, I responded firmly, "Mom, you're overstepping. I don't have time for this nonsense. I have more important things to worry about than your opinion of me or my relationship with your son." Nicole seemed shocked by my assertiveness. "How dare you speak to me like that?" she said. "So it's fine for you to insult me, but not for me to defend myself," I retorted. She turned to Jerry. "Say something. Your wife is disrespecting your mother." Jerry calmly sided with me. "She's just defending herself, Mom. I don't see anything wrong with it." Nicole accused me of manipulating Jerry. "Look how easily you turn your back on family. Mary will regret this." Her intrusion into our private conversation and the blatant insults left me seething with anger. Jerry tried to apologize for his mother's behavior, but I stopped him. He wasn't to blame for her hurtful words. After the confrontation, we decided to end the night and go to bed. My mind was too preoccupied with the upcoming presentation to dwell on Nicole's threat. The next morning, I arrived at work early, ready to give my presentation. However, when I opened my laptop, I was met with a heart-stopping surprise. All the files on my desktop were missing, and my laptop appeared to have been reset. Panic set in as I quickly checked my email, hoping my earlier precautions would save me, but even my emails had been deleted, including the trash. Overwhelmed and on the verge of tears, I explained the situation to my boss. His reaction was far from understanding. He reprimanded me harshly before instructing me to forget the presentation altogether. The weight of the situation was crushing, and I struggled to hold back tears, feeling both betrayed and helpless. When I discovered that my boss had a backup presenter in case I faltered, it became painfully clear that my prospects for advancement at the company were bleak. Devastated by the turn of events, I rushed home, tears streaming down my face. Jerry was still at home, and upon seeing my distress, he decided to take the day off to support me. He embraced me as I wept, and once I had somewhat regained my composure, he gently inquired about what had happened. "What's wrong, honey? Didn't the presentation go well?" he asked, puzzled. "There was no presentation, at least not by me," I replied, my voice still trembling. "What do you mean? You put so much effort into it. You barely slept these past few days because you were working so hard," Jerry said, his concern deepening. I explained the heartbreaking situation. When I got to work, I opened my laptop only to find that everything had been deleted. "How did that happen?" he asked, bewildered. It was both embarrassing and humiliating to have to explain it to my boss, I said, feeling the weight of the situation. I admitted feeling the sting of the memory. "Didn't you back it up somewhere else?" "I did," I said. "I emailed it to myself, but my inbox and even the trash had been emptied." Frustration was clear in my voice. Jerry's face fell with sympathy. "I'm so sorry this happened. What did your boss say?" "He was furious and called me unprofessional and lazy. He had someone else ready to do the presentation," I replied, bitterness hard to hide. "But you still have your job, right?" Jerry tried to find a silver lining. "Yes, but I'm stuck. There's no room for me to advance or move up. I'm done here," I said, feeling defeated. "Don't worry, honey. You'll find a better job. I'll be here for you through it all. Just keep working here until you're ready to leave," he reassured me, his support unwavering. "Yeah, I'll give my notice now. I can't believe I worked so hard for this, and just when I was close, it all slipped away," I said, the realization sinking in. The incident left me deeply affected. I took pride in my work, and to have a project fall apart so disastrously was traumatic. Though I continued to work there for another week, my heart wasn't in it anymore. I submitted my resignation, counting down the days until I could leave. Throughout this ordeal, Nicole's reaction was oddly gleeful. She once saw me in tears and made snide remarks, gloating over my misfortune. Initially, her words fueled my anger, but eventually I realized that her satisfaction with my struggles only reflected her bitterness. As I thought about Nicole's behavior, I couldn't shake the suspicion that her delight might stem from the hope that I would finally quit my job and become a housewife. Or, perhaps more unsettlingly, that she had a hand in the ruin of my career. The thought that Nicole might have sabotaged my laptop haunted me, fueling a nagging intuition that she was involved in the disaster. Before approaching Jerry with such a serious accusation, I knew I needed concrete proof. Determined to catch Nicole if she was indeed sabotaging me, I devised a plan to monitor her actions discreetly. I purchased a hidden camera designed to look like a smoke detector and installed it on the office ceiling. I sensed the device with my phone, setting everything in place to capture any misdeed. The next part of my plan involved baiting Nicole into revealing her possible involvement. I made it a point to appear visibly stressed and anxious around the office, hoping to draw her attention. Jerry was still at work, unaware of the unfolding drama. As expected, Nicole took notice of my anxious pacing and couldn't resist inquiring. "What's wrong? Are you stressed about another project?" she prodded, taking a deep breath. I confided in her, playing into her curiosity. "I've been given another chance to present my work, and it could lead to a raise," I said, masking my anxiety with a hint of hope. "Oh," Nicole's interest was piqued, her tone laced with a mix of surprise and skepticism. "Yes, and I'm nervous because this is my last chance to get things right. I have to do well," I continued, watching her reaction closely. "Why aren't you telling Jerry? Is it because you're embarrassed about your job?" "No, it's not that. I just don't want to disappoint him again. Please, let's keep this between us, okay?" I pleaded, trying to gauge her response. "I'm not promising anything, but it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow," she replied, her words chilling. "Why do you always want me to fail?" I couldn't help but confront her. "I just think you'd be better off as a housewife. It's less embarrassing than what you're doing now," Nicole scoffed, dismissing my concerns. Frustrated and needing space to prepare, I finally said, "I don't have time for this, and I don't care what you think. Please leave me alone so I can practice my presentation before Jerry gets home." With that, Nicole left, and I was left to hope that my hidden camera would reveal the truth behind her unsettling satisfaction. Nicole's smirk as she glanced at my laptop lingered in my mind long after she had left the office. I stayed put a little while longer, finally leaving only when Jerry arrived home. Throughout dinner, Nicole's occasional smirks continued, each one sending a ripple of unease through me. Later that night, after Jerry and I had settled into our usual routine of watching a few episodes of our favorite TV series, I decided it was time to check the footage from the hidden camera I had installed in my office. As we watched, the screen showed Nicole entering the office. There was no unusual activity until around midnight. That's when Nicole stealthily entered the office. I hastily showed Jerry the live feed on my phone. Initially puzzled, he soon watched in disbelief as Nicole tampered with my laptop, causing it to shut off and restart. Jerry's expression turned from shock to anger as he realized what was happening. Meanwhile, the camera captured Nicole rifling through my files. Unable to contain his frustration, Jerry stormed into the office. He burst through the door, startling Nicole, who spun around, caught in the act. "What are you doing in here, Mom?" Jerry demanded, struggling to maintain his composure. "Oh, nothing really," Nicole replied nonchalantly. "Then why is Mary's laptop open? Are you accusing me of going through her stuff?" Jerry pressed. "I think you did more than just go through it, Mom. Did you come here to tidy up at midnight? And Mary isn't the type to leave her laptop open. You know that?" Jerry retorted. "Don't talk to me like that. I'm still your mother," Nicole shot back defensively. "Yeah, my mother who seems to enjoy hurting and sabotaging my wife?" Jerry replied firmly. "We caught you on camera resetting Mary's laptop. You were spying on me? That's disgusting. How could you film me without my consent?" Nicole exclaimed, indignant. "I didn't put cameras in your room. I installed one in my office, and you went in there without my permission," I interjected, supporting Jerry and clarifying our intentions. The confrontation revealed the extent of Nicole's interference and deceit, testing the limits of family loyalty and trust. Despite the wrongdoing, Jerry remained firm in his decision. "Even if it was wrong, it's nothing compared to what you've done to Mary. I want you out of our house tomorrow," he declared unwaveringly. Nicole protested, her voice tinged with desperation. "But I'll be all alone." "I don't care. I don't want to talk to you," Jerry replied, his mind made up. The next morning, Nicole tried to delay her departure by busying herself with breakfast preparations and washing dishes. However, Jerry was resolute. As soon as she finished, he came downstairs with her bags packed and informed her that he had ordered her an Uber. Nicole pleaded tearfully to let her stay, showing rare vulnerability, but Jerry remained indifferent and retreated to our room. Left alone with me, Nicole lashed out, accusing me of setting her up. I responded calmly yet firmly. If anyone should be yelling, it's me. You're lucky I haven't shared the footage with your friends and family. If they knew what you did, you'd lose them all. My words silenced her. After Nicole's departure, I felt a profound sense of relief. Though still troubled by my job situation, I was confident in my ability to recover and excel. Jerry supported me wholeheartedly through it all. Once my notice period was over, I took some time off to rest and plan my next steps. I enrolled in courses related to different parts of my field, focusing on a niche that could propel me further. I decided not to expose Nicole because I wanted to rise above her negativity and prove my capabilities on my terms. With Jerry's connections, a benefit of his family's wealth, I secured several promising recommendations. His unwavering support, coupled with my experience, eventually led me to a breakthrough. I was appointed as the chief editor at a globally recognized magazine. The work was challenging but fulfilling. During this time, the goal of proving myself to Nicole faded into the background. In fact, during those transformative months, we had no contact with her at all. My journey to becoming chief editor not only marked a professional triumph, but also a personal liberation from the need to validate my worth to someone who had doubted me. Jerry continued to maintain a professional relationship with his father, Willie, as they worked together, but we heard very little from or about Nicole. Willie hinted that Nicole still harbored some resentment, though he remained tight-lipped about the specifics. Despite this, I was relieved that Nicole seemed to take my warning to heart. However, I knew a confrontation was inevitable, especially when I learned that both Nicole and Willie were invited to a significant company event I was attending. The party was a grand affair, attracting numerous prominent figures. Jerry and I made sure to look our best, aware that we were now both influential figures in our own rights. Upon our arrival, Willie and Nicole noticed us and waved us over. We approached, exchanging greetings. Nicole gave me a critical once-over and smirked. "Look at you, trying to fit in," she sneered. "Ignore her, Mary. You look lovely as always," Willie interjected kindly. "Thanks, Willie. How have you been?" I asked, trying to steer the conversation away from Nicole's snide remarks. "Yeah, how's unemployment treating you?" Nicole cut in, her tone sharp. "Wait, you're unemployed?" Willie asked, genuinely surprised. "Oh yeah, she messed up at her job, and they let her go. I've always said she's not good enough for our son. Look at her, she can't even keep a job," Nicole mocked with a malicious grin. "That's enough, Mom," Jerry intervened sternly. "Stop siding with her. It's bad enough having to see her everywhere. We wouldn't have to if you just left her," Nicole spat. Jerry shook his head, his patience worn thin. "We're done here," he said, taking my hand and leading me away from the confrontation. As we walked away, I felt a mix of emotions but also a sense of relief. Jerry's support meant the world to me, and together we faced the challenges with strength and unity. Nicole insisted stubbornly. "Okay, that's enough. Either you stop talking or I'm leaving," Jerry warned, his patience thinning. "But Mary, sweetie, if you need a job, let me know. It would be great to work with you," Willie offered sincerely. "That's kind of you, Willie, but I can't accept the offer," I replied, appreciating his gesture but choosing to decline. "Of course not. I told you she's lazy and incompetent," Nicole muttered under her breath. Just then, my name was called out, and the room erupted in cheers. I turned towards the small stage where the CEO was gesturing for me to come up. Excusing myself, I left Willie and Nicole. Willie looked amused, and Nicole, for once, was at a loss for words. Nicole looked both confused and angry as the CEO began his speech, praising my contributions to the company and my innovative ideas for the magazine. The room filled with applause and cheers, and soon I was asked to give a speech. Gratefully, I acknowledged Jerry's unwavering support and my colleagues' collaborative efforts that had significantly shaped the magazine. I concluded by thanking an unnamed critic whose skepticism had unwittingly spurred me to excel. As I stepped off the stage, many congratulated me and curiously inquired about the critic, but I chose to keep that detail private. I rejoined Jerry, Willie, and Nicole at our table. Jerry embraced me warmly, his pride evident, while Willie also stood to congratulate me with a hug. Nicole, on the other hand, could only offer a cold glare. "Oh, Mary, this is incredible. I can see why you wouldn't want to work with us," Willie remarked with genuine admiration. "Thanks, Willie. Although I'll admit, if you'd offered me the job about 9 months ago, I might have taken it," I responded, reflecting on the past. "You should have. At least then you'd be paid more," Nicole retorted sharply, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Paid more? I could never put a price on this," Willie quickly replied, defending the intangible rewards of my current role. "Right, she's not worth all that money," Nicole scoffed dismissively. "No, I mean I couldn't match what she's earning right now," Willie corrected, hinting at my substantial earnings. "What do you mean?" Nicole asked, her confusion apparent. "Do you want me to tell her, Mary? It might come off as boasting," Willie offered. "Sure, go ahead," I said, smiling. "Nicole, Mary's salary as chief editor is well above what we could have offered. She's making more than enough and doing a fantastic job," Willie explained. Nicole's eyes widened in shock. "Oh, I see," she mumbled, her tone subdued. I smiled, feeling a sense of vindication. My hard work and determination had paid off, and now even Nicole couldn't deny it. "Say it, Willie," I offered, looking at him for permission. "Mary makes at least 5 times more than I do in her current position," Willie revealed, causing Nicole's eyes to widen. "Oh yeah, she must be making way more than Jerry or I could ever imagine," Nicole exclaimed, her tone shifting from disbelief to grudging acknowledgement. "That can't be right. You must be mistaken," Nicole insisted, still struggling to accept the reality. "He's not mistaken, Mom. I did mean it when I thanked you. You've been nothing but a bully to me, and I hope seeing me more successful than anyone in your family stings. Anyway, I have other people to talk to." "Excuse us," I said firmly, ready to move on from the negativity. "Nicole, Willie, feel free to join us anytime. Goodbye," I concluded as Jerry and I left the table, leaving a stunned Nicole behind. Willie chuckled and raised his drink to me as Jerry and I walked away, a gesture of solidarity and celebration. I'd never felt more alive and validated. It was an incredible moment of triumph, and I was immensely grateful for Jerry's support throughout it all. As we made our way through the crowd, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought me to this moment. The challenges, the setbacks, and the doubts had all led to this point of success. I felt a renewed sense of purpose and confidence, knowing that I had proven myself not only to Nicole, but to everyone who had ever doubted me. Jerry and I found a quieter corner of the venue where we could enjoy the rest of the evening. He looked at me with pride in his eyes and said, "I'm so proud of you, Mary. You've worked so hard and deserve all the success you've achieved." "Thank you, Jerry. I couldn't have done it without your support. You've always believed in me, even when I doubted myself," I replied, feeling a wave of gratitude. We spent the rest of the evening mingling with colleagues and friends, celebrating my achievements. The event was a blur of congratulations, laughter, and heartfelt conversations. Each person who approached me to offer their well wishes reinforced the fact that I had truly made it. My hard work and dedication had paid off, and I was now standing on solid ground, both professionally and personally. Later that night, as we returned home, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and accomplishment. The weight of Nicole's negativity had been lifted, and I knew that I had finally broken free from her influence. Jerry and I talked about the future, dreaming about the possibilities that lay ahead. We were both excited about the new opportunities and challenges that awaited us. In the following weeks, I settled into my new role as chief editor with renewed enthusiasm. The work was demanding, but I thrived on the challenges, knowing that I was making a significant impact. My team respected and supported me, and together we pushed the magazine to new heights. The sense of fulfillment I felt each day was unmatched, and I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Nicole's absence in our lives was noticeable, but it brought a sense of peace. Jerry continued to work with his father, Willie, and their relationship remained strong. Occasionally, Willie would provide updates on Nicole, hinting that she still harbored some resentment. However, these updates were few and far between, and we chose not to dwell on them. One evening, as Jerry and I sat on our porch, enjoying the quiet moments of the day, he turned to me and said, "You know, Mary, I'm glad we stood up to Nicole. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. You've shown incredible strength and Nicole through it all." "I couldn't agree more," I replied, smiling. "We've come a long way, and I wouldn't change a thing. Our journey has made us stronger and more resilient." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over our home, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I knew that with Jerry by my side, we could face anything. We had weathered the storm, and now we were ready to embrace the future with open hearts and minds. After returning from a week-long international trip, I was surprised when my mother-in-law, Julie, called me sounding excited. She mentioned something about a $100,000 windfall we had apparently saved. Confused, I tried to remember any recent time I had saved such a sum. As a freelance jewelry designer, I do have a savings account for emergencies, but I don't keep large amounts of cash around, and my bank card was with me the entire trip. Normally, no one else has access to withdraw such a large amount from my account. Julie said, "He gave it to me, so I took it from the sideboard drawer. You guys are doing well, so it's fine." Her words left me bewildered. Before I could ask more questions, she quickly thanked me and hinted at counting on me for future financial help before hanging up. I was left puzzled about the missing $100,000 until Larry, my husband, came home and explained the misunderstanding. A month later, Julie bombarded me with numerous calls. At first, I ignored them, but the constant ringing eventually made me answer. Seeing over 50 missed calls on my phone was alarming. When I picked up, Julie's loud voice filled the room, accusing me of ignoring her. Her tone suggested she felt wronged, but to me, it was just the result of her assumptions. My life as Olivia, a 37-year-old busy freelance jewelry designer wanting children but overwhelmed by work, is shared with my equally busy husband, Larry. He used to have a corporate job, but now helps me manage my growing design business. Early in our marriage, my design jobs were rare, and we largely depended on Larry's steady income. Now, as my business flourishes, our roles and responsibilities have changed, but so have our challenges, like dealing with unexpected family misunderstandings about money. As I neared 34, my career as a jewelry designer was taking off, and I needed to organize my busy schedule better. Seeing the demands of my business grow, my husband, Larry, who was doing well at his company and about to get a promotion, made a bold choice. He quit his job to join me, using his management skills to help our business. Together, we got contracts with big international brands, improving both our work and personal lives. But with success came new challenges, especially with Larry's mom, Julie. She lived alone and saw our lives as luxurious, often asking us for money. "You always seem to be living so lavishly. I'm jealous," she would say. My job required me to attend product launches and dinners with executives, which Julie saw as fun outings. Her requests for money became more personal over time. "I'm going to throw a party for my friends soon. Can you give me some money for it?" she asked once. Even though it looked like we could afford it, keeping up our business image was expensive and full of obligations. We weren't living in luxury. These were necessary parts of our work. Julie, full of envy and sarcasm, didn't understand our expenses. "Dressed up beautifully, eating at expensive places, I envy you," she'd say. Despite my repeated refusals, Larry, being her son, would sometimes give in to her demands. If giving her a little money keeps her quiet, then it's worth it, he'd argue, finding it easier to appease her than have our work disrupted. But Julie's demands only grew. Recently, she wanted a new dress for an upcoming gathering. Just the other day, Julie came over and pestered Larry. "Wouldn't a three-piece suit work? We've been asked to buy clothes before," she said. There might be cheaper options, but what Julie wants is certainly not cheap. I explained to Julie that it was a fancy party and she couldn't be the only one in old clothes. She also insisted on a matching bag, which left us frustrated. To handle her frequent requests, Larry had set up a credit card in Julie's name for her expenses. At first, she overspent a lot and Larry had to warn her. Even though he asked her to tell us before making big purchases, she kept spending too much. This constant demand for money left both Larry and me exhausted, trying to support family while keeping our business stable. I found an exquisite ring and couldn't resist buying it, though I regret not telling you first. Unfortunately, the bill was huge, Julie said. If spending is going to be this uncontrolled, maybe it's best to take back the card. We just can't cover these costs, Larry said. The credit card was in Julie's name, but Larry was the one managing and paying the bills. Julie treated the card as if it had no limit, not realizing every purchase had to be paid for. Since the money wasn't coming directly from her, she kept using it freely. To control her spending, Larry set a limit on her card. Julie stormed into our home one day, frustrated. "What the heck? I couldn't pay for my shopping the other day." "Why?" she complained. We explained that her excessive spending was straining our finances, so we had to lower her limit. "It's still enough, right?" Larry asked, trying to keep the peace. "But you two are still dressing up and going to fancy places. How is what I'm doing any different?" Julie protested, thinking our activities were just for fun. "That's part of our job, Julie. If that's a job, then what I'm doing isn't any different. It's unfair that only you two get to have all the fun," she argued. While it's true that our work involves attending events in luxurious venues, these are professional obligations, not leisure activities. Despite her misunderstandings, setting a limit on Julie's credit card seemed to calm things down. Occasionally, Julie would visit and complain to Larry, but overall, life continued without major disruptions. As the year ended, an exciting opportunity came up. A foreign brand manufacturer approached me with a proposal to expand our business by moving overseas. This prospect thrilled me as it could elevate me to the ranks of top-tier designers. Larry, ever supportive as my manager, was all for it. "It's a chance we have to take," he affirmed. However, the idea of moving abroad brought a new concern. Julie. Given her past behavior, it was a real worry that she might insist on joining us overseas. The thought of living internationally was exciting, but dealing with Julie's demands in a new country was daunting. When we told Julie about our plans to move overseas for work that weekend, she reacted as we expected. "I want to come too," she declared, assuming our move would be a long vacation. Larry tried to explain, "We're going there for work. It won't be as leisurely as you think." But Julie was skeptical. "You're trying to trick me. You're planning to live even more lavishly there without me watching," she accused. "We're not moving there permanently. We'll come back after our work is done," I explained, trying to calm her concerns. Yet she retorted, "You're saying that, but you're planning to leave me behind, aren't you?" Larry and I were both exhausted by this repetitive argument. In an attempt to compromise, Larry suggested, "Okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we pay for a week-long trip for you instead?" Julie perked up at this. "Really? Are you sure? We'll cover your flight and hotel, but you'll need to manage the rest," Larry affirmed, pleased for the moment. However, the peace was short-lived. A few days later, while Larry was busy with the move arrangements, Julie dropped by unexpectedly. "Hey Olivia," Larry said, "I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money?" she asked. "What about the card that Larry gave you?" I inquired, knowing she had a designated credit card for such expenses. Julie's face fell. That's the thing. Larry finally took it away from me the other day, she admitted. It seemed she had been reprimanded for overspending and anticipating the challenges of managing finances with different currency rates overseas. Larry had confiscated the card. I don't have that kind of money on hand either. I can't give you money without Larry's approval. Can you ask him? I suggested, knowing full well Larry's stance. It's no use asking him. That's why I'm asking you, she pressed, raising her voice in frustration. Julie did end up going on a 15-day trip abroad, which I assumed Larry managed to fund somehow. Upon her return, she called me, brimming with excitement. I'm back, and it was so fun. She shared tales of her sightseeing and dining adventures, though I hadn't asked. And I overbought souvenirs and couldn't fit them in my suitcase, so I had them shipped here. Can't wait for them to arrive, she exclaimed. That's nice, I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral despite feeling a bit overwhelmed. Thanks to the money you saved up, I had a blast, she exclaimed. Saved up money? What are you talking about? I responded, puzzled and a bit alarmed, having no recollection of setting aside money for her splurge. I found it in your house's sideboard drawer, she said, claiming she took $100,000. I was stunned. Why would such a large amount of cash be stashed away at home, especially not in a drawer where anyone could find it? Confused, I confronted her. I'm not sure what money you're talking about, but taking it from our house without permission is theft, even if you're family. Do you understand that? Julie's response was unsettlingly casual. That's why I'm telling you now. I used it. Consider it a post-factum report, she declared unapologetically. I have no idea about this money, but if you took it and used it without telling anyone, that's a crime. And if it was something Larry had set aside for an important transaction, it's even more serious, I explained, trying to make sense of the situation. Despite this, there hadn't been any noticeable disruptions in our business finances during her trip. You two live so extravagantly, so why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your parent. It's not a big deal, right? She rationalized, showing a sense of entitlement that was hard to comprehend. It's one thing to ask for help from your son and his wife, but this is not how you should behave after taking someone else's money, I replied, still in disbelief. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, but I'll have to discuss this with Larry when he returns. Larry will understand. After all, I'm his only mother, and $100,000 isn't much to him, she assumed. All right, I'll pass the message along, I said, astounded by her lack of awareness. Later that evening, when Larry came home, he looked troubled. Olivia, do you know about the money I left in the drawer? He asked urgently. 20 days ago, I withdrew it from my bank account, and now it's gone. Keeping such a large sum in a drawer, didn't you think it was careless? He questioned. I needed cash immediately for an urgent payment. Do you know anything about it? It suddenly clicked. Julie's earlier call thanking me for the $100,000 and mentioning how much fun she had made sense now. It was Larry's money meant for a crucial purpose. Larry, today Julie called, thanking us for the $100,000 and saying she had a blast with it, I explained. I didn't understand what she meant until now. I explained, piecing everything together. So it was Larry's money, but what was such a large amount meant for? I asked. Hey, if it wasn't for a business payment, we've been doing bank transfers for a long time, right? Why cash all of a sudden? I questioned, trying to understand the whole situation and deal with the consequences of Julie's actions. I knew it was Larry's money that had disappeared, but I didn't know the full story. Julie had taken the money without telling us, and I needed to understand why. I asked Larry, puzzled by the situation. Larry began to explain. After he reduced the credit limit on Julie's card, she started secretly borrowing money from various sources, including consumer finance cards and credit cards she had opened without our knowledge. When Larry found out about her growing debt, he took away all her cards and withdrew cash to settle her debts directly. aiming to bypass the banking system to keep our business accounts clean and maintain trust with our partners. This was also partly a farewell gesture as we were moving abroad and wouldn't be around to manage such issues for her. Larry explained, I plan to handle her debts discreetly to prevent our financial records from getting complicated. A month had passed since then, and as I was busy packing for our move, Julie's frequent calls became hard to ignore. When I finally took her call, her voice was filled with desperation. Why aren't you answering my calls? I've called so many times, she said, almost in tears. I'm sorry, Julie. I've been caught up with the move. What's going on? I asked, trying to remain calm and give her a chance to explain her side. It's not just one thing, it's everything. They're asking for payments almost every day. It's too much, Julie confessed, her voice cracking under the strain. Have you tried contacting Larry about this? I asked, hoping she had sought his help first. He seems to be blocking my calls. I can't get through to him at all. Olivia, you're my only hope now. Please help me, she pleaded. I realized then just how complex the situation had become. Julie's financial recklessness had led her into a maze of debt, and now, cut off from Larry's assistance, she was turning to me as her last resort. As we prepared to start anew in a foreign country, dealing with Julie's financial chaos demanded immediate attention before we could fully focus on our new beginnings. I was surprised by Larry's drastic approach toward his mother. If he had used the prepared funds to settle Julie's debts directly, this stressful situation might have been avoided. Now, Julie was overwhelmed with collection letters and constant calls from finance companies and lenders. It was like a scene from a dramatic film, something I never thought I'd see in real life. I'll talk to Larry, but I can't guarantee what he'll do. A son should help his mother in trouble, right? Please ask him for me, Julie pleaded at the end of our conversation. But with our business expansion coming up, our finances were already stretched thin. We couldn't afford to help Julie more, especially since she misused the money meant to settle her debts. When I told Larry about the call, he responded with a mix of fatigue and resignation. I had planned to sort things out before we left, but she squandered that chance herself, he said coldly. The money was originally meant to clear Julie's debts, but she spent it on a lavish trip, leaving no room for excuses. As Julie's calls continued, I followed Larry's lead and blocked her number. Part of me wished to help her. She was, after all, Larry's mother, but there was nothing I could do if he chose to detach from the situation. Meanwhile, our move overseas was fast approaching, and I still had a lot to pack. Amid the chaos, I discovered more troubling news. Julie had decided to sell her house to manage her debts. It turned out she had hidden even more liabilities than we knew. The total amount was so large that even after selling her property, she couldn't cover it all. Losing the family home where Larry had grown up was deeply upsetting. Our family home is gone. Are you okay with that? I asked, sensing his sadness. How can I be okay? But there's nothing we can do, Larry replied, his voice tinged with sorrow. Losing the house where he grew up must have felt like a great loss, much like how I felt when I lost my parents' house early in life. Amid these complex feelings and the heavy task of packing, we had to come to terms with the fact that some situations were beyond our control. We needed to focus on our future as we prepared to start anew in a different country. The bittersweet reality of losing a family home struck me deeply. I watched the situation unfold with Larry. Unlike my past experiences, Larry had not only lost the house where his earliest memories were made, but also his emotional sanctuary, and all while his mother, Julie, was still alive. It's a hard feeling to describe the mix of loss and displacement, especially under such painful circumstances. It's more than just losing a building. It's about losing a part of your history and the comfort of a place to return to that no longer exists. Julie now lives in a modest apartment and faces the daily struggle of managing her debts. She works part-time, which is tough given her age. Job opportunities for older people are limited and often physically demanding and less rewarding. This new reality is a big change from her previous life of unchecked spending and financial freedom. Though I feel sympathy seeing her struggle, it's tempered by knowing her situation is the result of her own poor financial decisions. Life teaches us that actions have consequences, and Julie's case reaffirms that financial responsibility is crucial at any age. In our new environment, the business is thriving beyond our expectations. The move overseas has brought our brand into the international spotlight, with a flood of inquiries and offers from all over the world. Every new email and call brings potential for growth and collaboration, which is exciting but also very demanding. The success is thrilling but consumes our entire lives, leaving little room for anything else. Days blend into nights as we navigate time zones and cultural differences, trying to make the most of this golden opportunity. Despite the professional achievements, our personal lives are weighed down by our relentless schedules. The dream of expanding our family seems more like a distant vision, something we hope to revisit when the immediate demands lessen. Larry, who handles everything from logistics to client management, feels the strain deeply. As partners in both life and business, we often ponder our future and priorities, wondering how we can balance our professional goals with our personal desires. I look out of our apartment window, taking in the vast landscape. The neon lights blur into the night, mirroring the blur of our daily lives. This view, filled with promise and anonymity, is a sharp contrast to the familiar streets we once knew. This city, vibrant and relentless, is now our home. However, it starkly contrasts with the quiet, steady life we left behind. Our new life is exciting but also daunting. It's filled with endless tasks and decisions that challenge us at every turn. Navigating this new chapter, I often think about Julie's situation and the broader implications of our family and financial decisions. It's a continuous learning curve, understanding how deeply our choices are intertwined with our lives. Each decision, each sacrifice, and each success shapes not just our immediate circumstances, but also the legacy we leave behind. This view is full of promise and anonymity, a big change from the familiar streets we once knew. This city, vibrant and relentless, is now our home, but it is very different from the quiet. Our new life is exciting but also challenging, with endless tasks and decisions at every turn. As we navigate this new chapter, I often think about Julie's situation and how our family and money choices affect everything. We keep learning how our choices are deeply connected to our lives. As we build this new phase of our life, we try to balance achieving success and maintaining the relationships that define us beyond our business achievements. Born into a world where my last name opened more doors than I wanted, you could say I had it all set up for me. My dad's the big boss of a company you've probably seen on the stock exchange screen more times than you've cursed your morning alarm. Yes, that kind of rich. But if you're expecting stories of a golden girl draped in designer clothes and sipping champagne for breakfast, you've got the wrong story. Me, I've always kept it real, with my feet firmly on the ground. Money is nice, sure, but it's not everything. I chose a different path, one that led me to places money can't buy and experiences no gold card can fetch. Charity work, helping those in need, and living a life that's, well, ordinary. That's me, Laura. Not the fancy Laura, just Laura. So there I was, stuck in one of those typical evenings where my friend Amy decided we all needed to get out more. We ended up at this dive downtown, the kind where the beer is cheap and the lights are dim enough to hide your regrets. Amy was all hyped up, going on about some guy she met online. "You've got to meet him, Jess. He's totally your type," she kept saying. My type? Since when did she decide she knew my type? Anyway, we're there, and in walks this guy, not Amy's online prince, but another dude, Eric. He was there with some friends, looking as out of place as a cat at a dog show. He wasn't dressed to impress, just a simple t-shirt, jeans, and this easy smile that lit up the room. We got to talking, and it was easy, like really easy. He worked a manager job at a place I'd never heard of, nothing fancy, but he talked about it with this passion that was kind of infectious. "You really dig your job, huh?" I remember asking, sipping on my third beer. "Absolutely," Eric shot back, leaning in. "Every day is a challenge, but hey, I'm not here to bore you with work talk." "What about you?" Amy mentioned charity work. I shrugged, trying to downplay it. "Yes, a bit of this and that, just trying to do my part, you know." "That's cool, really cool," he said, and I could tell he meant it, not in a trying to impress you way, but genuinely. The night went on with our group mingling, but Eric and I stuck together, chatting about everything and nothing. It was refreshing talking to someone who wasn't trying to sell me on some investment or brag about their latest acquisition. As the night was winding down, Eric got this look in his eye like he was working up to something. "Hey Laura, I know this is kind of forward, but would you want to grab dinner with me sometime, just us?" I remember feeling a mix of surprise and excitement. "Sure," I said, trying to sound cool about it. "I'd like that." On the way home, Amy was all giggles and "I told you so." I just smiled, thinking about the evening. Eric was a breath of fresh air in my often too stale world. Little did I know how much things were about to change. It wasn't long before going out turned into hanging out at each other's places, which mostly meant my cozy apartment because Eric's roommates were a circus and a half. One evening, sprawled on the couch after devouring what might be the world's most average takeout pizza, Eric turned to me, his eyes serious, but his tone light. "Laura, how do you feel about making this a more permanent arrangement?" he asked, crumbs still clinging to the corner of his mouth. I raised an eyebrow. "You proposing we split a Netflix account or something more along the lines of a life together?" He chuckled, brushing off the crumbs. "Well, I was thinking more like a life together, but hey, we can start with Netflix." The simplicity of it, the straightforwardness, no grand gestures or dramatic backdrops, just us in our element. It felt right. "Eric, if you're asking what I think you're asking, yes, 1,000 times yes." And just like that, with the aroma of cheap pizza as our witness, we decided to tie the knot. It was swift, sure, but when you know, you know. Telling our families was the next hurdle. My folks, well, they've always been about the "as long as you're happy" mantra, but this was putting it to the test. Dad with his business empire and Mom the socialite, they had visions of me settling down with someone more in our circle. I broke the news over dinner, the fancy kind where you're not sure which fork to use for the salad. "Mom, Dad, I'm getting married to Eric." I said the words quickly, almost tumbling out. Dad paused, his fork midair. "Eric, the manager guy? Well, that's quick." Mom simply smiled, but it was a bit tight. "Dear, are you sure? This is rather sudden, isn't it?" But I was firm. "Yes, I'm sure. He's amazing, and we're really happy together." Their skepticism was clear, but so was their love. "Well, if he makes you happy, darling." Mom conceded, and Dad nodded in agreement. Eric's parents were a whole different story. We went over to their place, a cozy little house that always seemed to smell like fresh cookies or something equally comforting. Kelly and Jason were as down-to-earth as they come, and they welcomed me like I had always been part of the family. "Eric tells us you're setting a date," Jason asked, passing me a plate of those famous cookies. "Yes, we're thinking sooner rather than later. A small ceremony, nothing fancy," I replied, trying to gauge their reaction. "Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful. We're just thrilled for you both." Kelly beamed. Their warmth was enveloping, a stark contrast to the cautious optimism of my own parents. It was clear right from the start that our worlds were different, but the common ground was the genuine happiness for me and Eric. When planning the wedding, we were on the same page. Keep it simple, keep it us. A small ceremony, close friends and family, and an open bar because, as Eric put it, If we're doing this, we're making sure everyone's having a good time. And that's how it went down. A swift engagement, not because we were rushing, but because everything just clicked into place. Amid the whirlwind, there were quiet moments, looks shared between us that said, "We're doing the right thing." And we were. We really were. Living with Eric started off as everything I'd hoped for and more. We were like two peas in a pod, making our little corner of the world in that cozy, modern apartment I had rented. It was ours, filled with love, laughter, and a ton of take-out containers because, let's face it, neither of us were winning any awards in the kitchen. It wasn't long before I started noticing how Eric's parents, Kelly and Jason, had this way of dropping hints about things they liked or needed whenever they came over. At first, it was subtle, almost cute. "Oh, Laura, that's a lovely coffee maker. Must make mornings a breeze," Kelly would say, eyeing our shiny new appliance with a gleam in her eye. Or Jason would remark, "This sofa is just divine. Our old one's been giving me a right pain in the back, you know." Wanting to be the good daughter-in-law, I took note of these little hints. I'd surprise them with gifts here and there, a coffee maker for Kelly, a comfortable new sofa for their living room, and so on. Their initial reactions were always the same, a mix of surprise and a little bit of guilt. "Oh, Laura, you shouldn't have. This is too much," Kelly would exclaim, her hands fluttering to her chest. "But you know, humans are funny creatures. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile." Those initial protests faded away, replaced by a growing list of subtle hints that were about as subtle as a brick through a window. "Dinner at your folks' place was lovely, dear. Did you see that new TV they have? Crystal clear. Ours is practically ancient." Eric would relay his parents' latest comments, oblivious to the change in their tone. One evening, after I had just dropped a not-so-small fortune on a fancy new TV for them, Eric and I were curled up on the couch, my head resting in his lap. "They really love the TV, babe. You're amazing," he said, his fingers running through my hair. But I felt the weight of their expectations starting to press down on me. "Eric, do they expect us to keep doing this? It's getting a bit much, don't you think?" I asked. He paused, his hand stopping mid-stroke. "What do you mean?" "They're just happy, that's all," he replied. "Happy or taking advantage?" I pushed back, sitting up to look at him. "It feels like we're their personal shopping service." Eric was taken aback, his brow furrowing. "They're not like that, Jess. They're just not used to nice things, that's all." "But where does it end, Eric? It's like they've got a taste for it now, and they're not looking back," I argued, frustration creeping into my voice. The conversation ended with an uneasy truce, but it was clear we were on different pages. Kelly and Jason's gratitude had morphed into entitlement, and it was putting a strain on me. I loved Eric, but I wasn't about to become a bottomless ATM for his parents. When my dad's company hit hard times, it felt like the rug was yanked out from under my feet. That cushy life, poof, gone. And with it, the whole dynamic of my relationship took a nosedive. The shift wasn't gradual. It was like flipping a switch from daylight to darkness. I had to break the news to Eric and his folks, and let me tell you, that was a conversation I'd been dreading. "Listen, things are going to get tight. Dad's company's tanking and, well, we're in for a rough ride," I told them. I tried to keep my voice steady, but the tremor betrayed my nerves. Eric's reaction was a gut punch. "You're kidding me, right? What do you mean things are going to get tight? You're telling me we can't live like we used to because of your dad's mess." His words were cold, and for a second, I wished the floor would swallow me whole. Kelly and Jason's faces were no better, their disappointment barely hidden. "This is quite the situation you've put us in, Laura," Jason added, his tone full of reproach. Just like that, the warmth and camaraderie we once shared disappeared, replaced by a cold expectation that somehow I was to blame for my family's financial downturn. Moving in with them was supposed to be a temporary solution. Our once independent life was swapped for a guest room that felt more like a cell in the house of two people who now saw us as a nuisance. The atmosphere was charged with tension, every day a reminder that I'd somehow failed them. "We're cutting back on everything because of this," Kelly would remind me, her voice sharp as she served dinner that was a far cry from the lavish meals we used to enjoy. And Jason always had a comment on saving costs. "Make sure those lights are off. We're not running a charity here." But Eric was the hardest to bear. The man I married seemed to have vanished, replaced by someone who saw me as a letdown. "Can't you do something? Talk to your dad? It's like you don't even care we're living like this." He'd snap, anger flaring over the smallest things. Our conversations, once easy and filled with future plans, were now minefields. Every word I said was a potential trigger for another outburst. "I thought marrying you meant security, not this struggle," he'd throw at me during arguments, his words slicing through me. It was clear we weren't just dealing with financial stress. This was a test of our relationship, revealing true colors under pressure. I was stuck in the middle, battling the disillusionment from my husband and his parents while grappling with my own sense of failure. Kelly's birthday dinner was supposed to be a cozy family thing at an upscale restaurant, a break from the constant tension, but it turned into the showdown of a lifetime. I should have seen it coming with the way things had been going at their place. We're all sitting there, menu in hand, and I'm trying to keep the peace, just blended to the background. That plan got ruined the second orders started flying. Eric, with a grin that made my skin crawl, goes, "Let's get the steak and lobster for us," and then throws a look my way, 1 part smug, 2 parts cruel. "Laura can do with the soup of the day. Got to save where we can, right?" They all laugh like it's the best joke they've heard in ages. Kelly adds her 2 cents. "Absolutely, can't have Laura overspending now, can we?" I felt a flush of heat, not from embarrassment, but pure fury. "Really? Soup? What's this, some kind of sick joke?" I snapped back, my voice sharper than I intended. "Oh, come on, Laura, it's just a bit of fun," Eric said, that smirk still plastered on his face. That's when I lost it. "Fun? This is your idea of fun. When things are tough, you show how petty you really are? I can't believe I fell for your act," I exclaimed. You could hear a pin drop. The whole restaurant was watching now, the awkwardness off the charts. I didn't sit back down. "Keep your fancy dishes and your pathetic jokes. I'm out," I said, standing up so fast my chair nearly toppled over, the noise echoing and turning more heads our way. Eric reached out, trying to play the peacemaker. "Laura, don't. Let's not make this a scene." "A scene? You think I care about making a scene after that stunt? This is about respect, something you clearly have none of," I said, yanking my arm free and heading for the exit. The weight of their stares was on my back, but stepping out into the night felt like breaking out of prison. My phone was blowing up, Eric no doubt trying to do damage control. I ignored it, my mind made up. I drove back to their place, a storm of emotions brewing inside. How had things gone so sour? Eric and I were a team, or so I thought, but that dinner was a slap in the face, a wake-up call I couldn't ignore. Back at the house, I packed my bags in record time, each folded shirt a reminder of the life I was leaving behind. It wasn't just about leaving a place, it was about leaving a relationship that had shown its true colors. I turned off my phone, cutting off the barrage of messages. The silence was eerie but welcome. That night wasn't just the end of a disastrous dinner, it was the close of a chapter. I had no interest in revisiting after the disaster that was Kelly's birthday dinner. I found myself driving to my parents' house. The night was quiet, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. By the time I pulled up to their driveway, my decision was made. I needed sanctuary, but more than that, I needed advice, something only my dad could offer. Walking into the house, the familiarity of it all was both comforting and jarring. Mom was asleep, but Dad was up, sitting in his study surrounded by papers that seemed less important the moment I stepped in. "Laura, what are you doing here at this hour? Is everything okay?" he asked, standing up, concern etched on his face. I took a deep breath, and the events of the evening poured out of me in a flood. I told him about the dinner, about Eric and his parents, and how I felt like I'd been reduced to nothing but a source of income for them. Dad listened in silence, his expression hardening with every word. When I finished, he sighed, a sound that carried years of experience and a hint of sorrow. "Laura, I saw this coming. I just hoped I was wrong," he finally said, his voice steady but filled with empathy. "How could I have been so blind, Dad? I thought Eric and I were different," I said, feeling the weight of my naivety. He walked over, putting an arm around my shoulders. "You wanted to see the best in him and them. There's no fault in that. But people show their true colors in tough times. It's a hard lesson, but an important one." I nodded, the reality of his words sinking in. "But what do I do now? I can't go back there. You'll stay here for starters. As for the rest, we'll figure it out together," he assured me, his confidence a balm to my frayed nerves. Then he shared something that took me by surprise. "You know, the company situation isn't as dire as it seems. We're actually on the verge of a breakthrough." It was a strategic move, a way to weed out the opportunists. I stared at him, stunned. "So you mean to say we're not broke?" He chuckled, a sound that was part relief, part amusement. Far from it, but it was important to see who would stick around when the chips were down. Unfortunately, Eric and his family showed their true selves. The revelation was a lot to process. My anger towards Eric and his parents was now mixed with a sense of vindication. They had revealed their true motives and, in doing so, had freed me from a future of manipulation and deceit. "Dad, I don't know whether to be relieved or furious," I admitted. "Probably a bit of both," he said, giving me a reassuring squeeze. "But the important thing is you're free to make a better future for yourself." I admit it, the emotions battling inside me were both. "It's okay, but remember this experience has taught you something invaluable about people and their intentions. Use it, learn from it," he advised, grounding me. Walking up to Kelly and Jason's house the next day felt like heading into the lion's den. I was ready for a showdown, but nothing could have prepared me for the cold reception I got. Eric was standing there, divorce papers in hand, with a look that could only be described as triumphant disdain. "Here you go, let's get this over with," he said, practically shoving the papers at me. His parents were hovering behind, barely containing their glee. Finally getting rid of the freeloader, Kelly snickered and Jason nodded in agreement, a smug smile plastered across his face. Eric joined in. "Yes, turns out you're just an ordinary dummy without your daddy's money. Thought you'd cry, but guess what? We don't need a tearful mess around here." Their words stung, but not in the way they expected. I felt a bizarre mix of anger and liberation. I looked at the papers, then at them, and without a word, signed where I needed to. As I did, their smiles widened, thinking they'd won, but I had the last laugh. Pulling out a newspaper from my bag, I slapped it down on the table with more force than necessary. "Thought you might find this interesting," I said, my voice dripping with unrestrained satisfaction. The headline screamed about my dad's company making a monumental comeback, profits soaring higher than ever. Watching their faces drain of color was a sight I'd pay to see again. Kelly and Jason's smugness vanished, replaced by shock, then desperation. Eric's arrogance crumbled, leaving him looking like a child who just lost his favorite toy. Kelly suddenly switched gears, stepping towards me with arms wide open. "Oh, my sweet girl, it's all a big misunderstanding. Let's hug it out." Jason, ever the opportunist, chimed in. "Let's not rush things. Sit down, have a coffee, and we can talk this through." And Eric, oh Eric, he was the picture of regret. "I was wrong, okay. We can fix this. I want to make everything right, please." Their sudden change of heart was almost comical. Almost. I couldn't help but laugh, a deep, hearty sound that felt cleansing. "You three are something else, you know that. But here's a news flash for you. I'm done. Done with the lies, the manipulation, and the so-called family that only values me for my bank account." I turned to leave, their protests and pleas fading into the background. They called after me, a mix of desperation and disbelief in their voices. But I didn't look back. Not this time. After the spectacle at Kelly and Jason's house, I was done not just with them, but with the whole sorry saga that had become my life. I needed a fresh start, a clean slate. So I took some time at my parents' place, getting my head and heart back in the game. One afternoon, a couple of weeks after the divorce was finalized, I was out for coffee with Amy, my ever-supportive friend who had been there through it all. "Girl, you look like a weight's been lifted," she commented, sipping her latte. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. "You have no idea. It's like I can finally breathe again," I said. Amy leaned in, her expression turning serious. "So what's next for you, Jess? You have a clean slate now." I thought about it, stirring my coffee absent-mindedly. "I'm not sure, but I'm excited to find out. Maybe I'll travel, pick up some of the charity work I had to put on hold. As for love," I paused, giving her a rueful smile. "I think I'll give that a miss for a while. Just make sure you're doing what makes you happy, okay? You deserve it after all that drama," she said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "Thanks, Amy. That's the plan." Not long after that conversation, my phone started buzzing with calls and messages from Eric. He was pleading, saying he had changed, that we could start over. His parents even got in on the act, sending messages filled with apologies and invitations to talk things over. Sitting in my room, phone in hand, I couldn't help but laugh. The sheer audacity was almost admirable. Almost. I typed out a response, one I've been mulling over for days. "Eric, moving on means moving forward, not going back to what broke you. I wish you all the best, but this is where our path ends for good. Take care." Hitting send felt like closing the final chapter of a book I'd been stuck in for too long, and just like that, I was ready to start writing a new one. The next few months were a blur of activity. I threw myself into my work, took up volunteering with a vengeance, and even booked a solo trip to a place I'd always wanted to visit. Life was full, and for the first time in a long while, it was fulfilling too. One evening, sitting on a balcony overlooking a bustling street in a far-off city, I felt a sense of peace and excitement for the future. I was ready for whatever came next. I realized I'd found what I'd been searching for all along: peace. The drama, the heartache, the betrayal, it all seemed like a distant memory. My phone buzzed with a new message, but this time it was from a number I didn't recognize. Hesitantly, I opened it. It was from someone I'd met during my travels, someone who made me laugh and think in equal measure. "Hey Laura, how about dinner when you're back? No expectations, just food and good company." I stared at the message, a smile slowly spreading across my face. Maybe it was time to open my heart again, but on my terms, at my pace. I looked at the text and replied, yes, hitting send before I could second-guess myself. Looking out at the city lights, I felt a sense of excitement for the future. I had moved on, not just from Eric and his family, but from the person I was when I was with them. I was stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next.